Yes, we are on start.
Yeah. So, good evening, friends, professional colleagues, and other visiting delegates for today's webinar. It gives us a great pleasure to be able to see you all at least online today evening. With the pandemic now moving towards endemic soon, we hope to meet one and all in person in the very near future. Till then, webinar is the way of life. On behalf of Tax Practitioners Association Thane, I welcome one and all, and I welcome our speaker for the day, CA Yash Dhhada from Jaipur. Friends, Tax Practitioners Association Thane has been the pioneer in starting the webinar series when the pandemic struck in 2020. Our then president and now IPP, CA Vijay Keval Ramani, took the lead and started this webinar series. We have come a long way since then, having more than 125 webinars, including full-day online conference, has been conducted by our association. Friends, I invite all non-members to be a part of Tax Practice Association Thane and be a part of learning and gaining knowledge. We have joint host for today, namely All India Federation of Tax Practitioners West Zone, Tax Friends Bombay, Bhiwandi Tax Practice Association, GST Bar Association Varanasi, Income Tax Bar Association Prayagraj, Associations of Tax Practitioners Vellore, and Baroda Tax Bar Associations Vadodara, who have joined us in our vision of reaching people and upgrading their knowledge through webinars. Till date, these associations are with us, and I would like to welcome one and all today. Especially, let me welcome personally Chairman of West Zone All India Federation of Tax Practitioners, Mitesh Modi ji. Welcome, sir. I welcome Advocate Atam Tekchandani, President of Tax Friends Association, Mumbai. I welcome CA Rakesh Agarwal, President, Bhiwandi Tax Practitioners Association. Advocate Arvind Shukla, President of GST Bar Association, Varanasi. Advocate SK Yogeshwar, Income Tax Bar Association, Prayagraj. PK Rajendran, Association of Tax Practitioners, Vellore. And Suresh Prajapati, Baroda, President, Tax Bar Association, Vadodara. Friends, let me also welcome Vice President West Zone, Santosh Gupta from Nagpur. And I'm expecting General Secretary CA Jamna Shukla ji to join us from Varanasi, and also Joint Secretary West Zone Chirag Parekh from Mumbai. So friends, thank you all for joining today for this seminar. I would now like to invite Haresh Chugani to say a few words on behalf of Tax Friends Mumbai. Over to Haresh.
Good evening, everyone. My dear professional colleagues and seniors in profession, Mr. Atam Tekchandani, who is President of Tax Friends Association, due to his ill health, is unable to attend today's webinar. So I have been given this opportunity to represent Tax Friends Association, being the Honorary Secretary of Tax Friends Association, Mumbai. So Tax Friends Association, Mumbai is a 46-year-old association, and it consists of advocates, chartered accountants, and other tax professionals. It has members from different parts of the countries. Originally, it was only limited to the Mumbai city, but later on, we have tried our level best under our leadership of our IPP, Mr. CA Vijay Keval Ramani ji. With his ideas and guidance, our presence is now mostly in all over the country. We have members from all over the country. Tax Friends Association has already conducted more than 125 webinars in association with TPA Thane and other professional associations. And it was pioneer in starting the online webinar series during lockdown in July 20 onwards. It has also conducted first ever national tax conference jointly with TPA Thane and other professional associations in July 20. And I had got the privilege to become the MOC in that very first national tax conference, thanks to Mr. Vijay Keval Ramani and Bharat Sachdev. Further, we have also conducted prior to lockdown number of studies, circle meetings, and other budget and educational seminars through which most of our professional colleagues have gained the knowledge from it. And our prominent members of our association, to name a few, is our IPP, Mr. Vijay Keval Ramani, Mr. Sunil Krushlani, Shri Chandru Bakshani ji, Shri DT Khilnani, Shri KK Ramnani, Shri JD Nankani ji, Shri Ishwar Nankani ji, Mr. Vikram Nankani ji, Shri SD Israni, Kishore Lula ji, Prem Chhatpar ji, Shri Anand Panjwani ji, Shri Avinash Lalmani ji. So these are very few prominent members of our association, to name a few. With this, I represent my association. I thank once again TPA Thane and all other associations to give me and who has given me the opportunity to speak on this dais for 3 minutes. And over to you, Mr. Bharat Sachdev. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Haresh. Thanks a lot for your words. I now have a pleasure on and requesting Chairman of All India Federation of Tax Practitioners Association West Zone, CA Mitish ji, to please give his opening remark and welcome all. Mitish ji.
Thank you, Bharat Sachdev ji. Good evening to all. I welcome each one of you on behalf of All India Federation of Tax Practitioners Western Zone. And I'm happy to note that this is the very next second program of this term, my term, and that is too on the GST, very relevant subject. Bharat Sachdev ji, our NEC member and the president of this Tax Practitioners Association Thane, National Treasurer of our AIFTP, CA Vijay Kevaramani ji, our Vice President of Western Zone, Mr. Santosh Gupta ji, President, Deputy President, and Secretary General in their absentia, other senior members of the Federation, the joined various organizations. I say good welcome, warm welcome to all of them. Tax Practitioners Friends Association Mumbai, other Bar Association, Bhiwandi Tax Practitioners Association, GST Bar Association Varanasi, Income Tax Bar Association Prayagraj, Association of Tax Practitioners Vellore, and Baroda Tax Bar Association Vadodara. Friends, this is very, very happy note on behalf of Western Zone that there are so many local bar associations are there in this very important program, webinar organized by Thane Group under the leadership of Bharat Bhai Sachdev and Vijay Kevaramani ji. And I welcome on my behalf and also on behalf of Western Zone. And I am very much hopeful that looking to the subject, the issues on GSTR 9 and 9C and the recent development on the GST, it is very well important, very needed subject, and we have very learned speakers, say Yash Dhhada, and our program will be conducted by our moderator, Krunal Dawda. After the conclusion of this program, I am sure we all will be benefited by the knowledge and the skill, expertise of the speaker on the very apt subject. I once again welcome you, but on behalf of the Western Zone and the All India Federation of Tax Practitioners, I would like to make some appeal before the members. Those who are already members of the Federation, I earnestly request all of you, all my friends, to appeal to all other professionals to be the member of the Federation at the earliest. The fees is very reasonable. And at the same time, I request all the members of the Federation, particularly Western Zone, to give their approval or their nomination fee for the GST journal. The charges is very nominal, 1,100. And we are continuously making our efforts to sharpen our skill for the benefit of our members. We are organizing continuously our programs on direct taxes and indirect taxes. We have planned big events during this term at Surat and at Nagpur. And continuously after this program, on 29th also, there is one big program with the Vidarbha Tax Bar Association. Yeah, in this month only. Then on 2nd February, we have one program on the broad overview of the finance bill. The speaker would be Dr. Girish Ahuja, and it is jointly with the North Zone Bar Association, North Zone professional body. Then we are planning to have one program again on Union Budget on 3rd March with the Bar Association of the Maharashtra They have already given us the proposal and we are going to organize that program. This is the continuous efforts on behalf of the Federation, and I request all of you to join and take active participation in all the coming programs. And if any suggestions from the seniors and the NEC members or any of your other office bearers for the betterment of the Federation, I always welcome and I'm always there to do better for the Federation. Once again, I am very much grateful to you all, particularly the organizers, co-organizers, and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mitesh bhai, for your kind words, and we will surely request everyone and all to please book a journal online. 1100 rupees, a beautiful journal. We have been using it for the last many years, and I request everybody to take benefit of it. For non-members also, it is available at 1,400. But you all should become a member and should also participate in taking the journal. Thank you, Mitesh bhai, for those reminding that. I now request our moderator for the evening, CA Krunal Davada, to take forward the proceedings. Over to Krunal.
Thank you, Bharat bhai. Thank you, one and all. Good evening to all the dignitaries of all the associations and everyone present for today's session. Friends, we have with us today a very learned speaker, CA Yash Dhhada from Jaipur, who has agreed to take time out from his busy schedule and address the topic of today of GST 99C and the recent amendments under GST for us. Friends, a very crucial topic at this juncture that we can say. So friends, without wasting any further precious time, I request CA Arvind Jain, our joint treasurer of TPA, to kindly give a kind introduction to today's speaker. And just one thing, friends, just one request, since I've seen the PPT and it's a very detailed and a comprehensive one, really credit goes to Yash. I request that please post your queries on the chat box and the speaker will take all the questions at the end of the session. Over to you, Arvind bhai, for the introduction of today's speaker.
Thank you, Kunal bhai. Good evening, friends. Special thanks to Tax Practitioner Association Thane, AIFTP, Tax Friends Mumbai, and other association for giving me an opportunity to introduce today's learned speaker, Mr. Yash Dhhada. Yash Dhhada is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is associated with the Messrs. Dhhada and Company as a partner in indirect taxes. He is having working experience of all over 11 years in the field of indirect taxes with the concentration only on GST, service tax, and excise matter. He is currently engaged in handling litigation along with advising clients, structuring transaction, and conducting due diligence in given field of taxation. He is a special invited to Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI for the term 21-22 and was also earlier part of committee for the terms 18-19 and 19-20. He is also on the panel of CII Rajasthan as a GST Service Tax and Excise Advisory for industry member. He has represented ICI in a regional advisory committee, Rajasthan, under aegis of Chief Commissioner of Excise Customs Jaipur. He is a funding core member of study group of ICI on GST research and upgradation matter. Yes, has a deep interest in the academic discussions, upgradation, and training. He has written handbook on principle of classification for goods and service tax under GST, and also casual tax person on IDTC and of ICI. He has also actively contributed as a core member of the team which has drafted technical guide to GST audit issued by ICI. He has delivered lecture in the northern, western, and eastern part of India, and also a regular attendee of various study courses on GST conducted by BSCA, CATC, ICI, and other forum of group leader as a group leader and coordinator. He has an embedded trainer on GST for NACIN, ICI, and Regional Training Institute for Revenue and CNG offices and Rajasthan's GST officer. As his passion, he is also engaged in the grooming young professional of CA, CS, MBA on topic of soft skill and professional life management. Yes, he is a commerce graduate from Commerce College, Rajasthan University, Jaipur, and certification holder on indirect tax course conducted by ICI. With this brief introduction, I now hand over charge to Mr. Yash Dhhada. Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much, Arvindji.
Thank you.
Good evening to all the participants and office bearers of various associations. Please pardon me, I would not be able to take names of all the associations, but this is fantastic to see, I think, associations from northern side, central side, western side coming together and doing this wonderful program. And that clearly shows that all of us have adapted the technology well. And and I'm thankful to all the associations for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share my views on this topic, which has been rightly explained by Krunal and Bharatji also as one of the important topics for all the practitioners, specifically in GST, because this is one thing apart from returns, which all of us actually look forward to at the year end to do. And in fact, it has now formed the basis for department at least to issue notices, to initiate the proceedings, to look for the information. And the manner in which these forms are there, it has a lot of information for the department also to peep into how a particular taxpayer or assessee is doing his or her business. So the plan is that we have approximately 90 minutes. So what I'll do in this 90 minutes is, first, I'll try to sum up my views on both these two topics, that is annual return, along with recent updates which have been made applicable from 1st of January 2022. During the course of speaking on 9 and 9Z, wherever I feel that any provision which has been amended with effect from January 2022, I'll take it then and there. And at the end, if in case certain other amendments are there, on the basis of the availability of time, we'll take those amendments. I would request all of you to kindly post your questions in the chat box so that at the end, we may compile all of them and take it together. So with this, we'll straight away go to our topic. But before I start, I generally say that the loading which you see in my PPT at the first slide, that's not a problem which I have with the internet or with this presentation, but I consider that the 3 letters which you see on your screen, that is GST, it has still not developed the manner in which it should have, or it has not settled yet. And it's still in that phase where we can say that law is still in the phase of settling down. And that is why we say in our internet language, it is still loading. And once that happens, all of us, at least I believe that up till now also, department is also in the transition phase, and all of us are also in the transition phase. And I'm saying so because we have a lot of the learning from the previous acts. We have learning from excise, customs, service tax, some of the learnings of income tax also, which we try and put in when we look at the provisions of GST. When we try to look at some problem which we face day in, day out in GST, we look for the earlier precedents, we look for the earlier understanding. And then when we don't reach to a specific conclusion, we always say maybe it is the right time to unlearn something from whatever we have learned and try to look at the new concepts. I don't know how far basically we'll be able to unlearn. Is that learning really required or not? But yeah, that's the excitement when one is practicing in GST. I think this slide I had pre-planned, but the manner in which this program has been conducted, I think it clearly gels into the philosophy, which I think Mr. Bharat also said at the inception, that since pandemic, approximately, I think he said 125 programs has been done. And that clearly shows that all of us have understood one thing after this COVID, that adaptability is something in which none of us would anybody would not come forward and tell us that we have to be adaptable, but we have to look at and understand it on the basis of the surroundings which we have. And there are a lot of things, I think, which all of us have understood without anybody telling it or telling it expressively to us that it needs to be done. Like the manner in which now the offices are working, like in our office, I'll still say that because of the COVID, half of my team is working from home, but the working of the office has been the usual, the way it should have been. I'm sure some of you are also facing this, are working in a similar manner. The manner in which the technology has changed in last 10 years, manner in which GST has been implemented, manner in which the COVID has impacted our lives. I think all these things have changed that uncertainty. All of us, I understand at least that uncertainty is going to be the new certainty. Things are not going to remain the same. And when I say this, I think one photograph which I found on WhatsApp few days back, and I generally again use it when I speak at the forums, is that when this GST came in, all of us thought that we'll be working like this, but that's what GST will bring for all of us. That is, we'll be working maybe in terms of compliance, in terms of litigation or whatever it is. But when I'll start working in GST, ultimately that is going to be the end result. However, some of us, I would say, we may not be at the left-hand side, but some of us on the right-hand side of the picture, where we realize that day in and day out, majority of us have been working under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. And that's not because our clients are giving that to us, but again, that's because the way in which the compliances are in front of us. And probably there, I think COVID has told us that there has to be balance of everything. And somewhere all of us have to ensure that we are at the correct balance of both the side, not at the extreme left, not at the extreme right. However, when I come to, from this background, when I come to GST annual returns, and earlier I would have said GST audit, but now because we don't have those GST audits for at least financial year 2021, so I'll say GST annual returns along with reconciliation statements. That balance in terms of compliance and the balance in terms of what is the effect of this compliance, which is going to be there on the assessee for next 2 to 3 years, or maybe 5 years, because that is a timeline which is available with the department, where they would look at our annual returns, our reconciliation statements, and they would give us notices. And those notices will be in various forms, maybe in terms of scrutiny notice, maybe in terms of a notice for conducting an audit, or maybe they would find out something from the returns and would look for a preventive action by maybe issuing summons or otherwise. So that balance in terms of doing a compliance and also understanding what that compliance would ultimately result into or how it will be interpreted from the department side, I think that is going to be the most interesting thing for all of us to look at. All of us have filed annual returns for last 3 years, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. So I am going ahead with this basic understanding that we know what are annual returns and reconciliation statements. I don't have to go into the basics. What I basically will do is look for the updates which are there for 2021, certain issues which all of us face, and how department looks at when you punch in certain figures in respective tables in annual return, along with specific issues which all of us face when we file these. First of all, what has happened for 2021? One of the biggest change which has come, and that biggest change is that at least this section 35 subsection 5 of the CGST Act and respective SGST Acts, it has been omitted. Meaning thereby, in a simple term, that 35.5 was that section which clearly brought out that audit under GST, if at all that needs to be done, that enabling power was coming from 35.5. And it said that every basically taxable registered person who has a turnover beyond a certain limit, he has to basically get his account audited from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, and he has to submit that audited annual accounts along with the reconciliation statement. Now that section has been omitted with effect from August 2021. And first question which came in front for all of us is whether it is applicable for financial year 2021 or it is applicable for financial year 21-22. And because again, this is something which is procedural in nature, this amendment, which is procedural, I would say it is not taking away any substantive right of a particular assessee. Hence, its applicability has to be looked at for all the compliances which were pending on or after 1st of August 2021. And that's what basically in an informal way, CBIC also in one of the tweets somewhere in December 2021 gave a specific answer to a query when somebody asked on the Twitter handle whether somebody has to get its account audited for financial year 2021 or whether this amendment is applicable for 21-22. And the answer was it is applicable for 2021 also. So all those who have not filed their annual returns and reconciliation statements up till this 1st of August 2021, now they need not get it audited by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant. They need not get it certified from these two professionals, and they can self-certify and go ahead and file their annual return along with GST and 9C. Now, having said that, I'm sure all of us understand this. Let's not go into the background, whether it has a positive impact or a negative impact. But in one line, I think with my presentation, at least what I have been able to understand is it is going to have a negative impact on the taxpayer, and the manner in which the forms have been modified, the manner in which certain terminologies have been mentioned, and the kind of certification or a self-certification rather a taxpayer is going to give to the government going forward, all of us would kind of get an idea that what implication it will have for that specific taxpayer. So not speaking from the professional side that it might have a negative impact on us, but in fact, looking at the client side also, I think it is going to be a little on the negative side for them. Having said that, the manner in which this amendment has been done, that is this 35.5 has been omitted and there was this section for filing of annual returns, which was section 44, which has been also amended with effect from August 2021. I want all of you to actually read the unamended provision or the provision applicable up till 31st of July 21 and the provision which is applicable from 1st of August 2020, and look at the difference in the language of this amendment which has come in and its implication. So all of us understand that when we file our GSTR 9C, I am talking about all those taxpayers who have an aggregate turnover of more than 5 crore rupees. So they are compulsorily required to file GSTR 9C. Now, when we file GSTR 9C, we understand that on GSTN portal, there is that 3 attachments which have to go with GSTR 9C. One attachment is for balance sheet, another is for profit and loss account, and third is for others. So there is that others also which is there. Now, we also know that in GSTR 9C, what do we do basically? So we only reconcile. What do we reconcile? We reconcile the values which are there in the annual return with the values which are there in our audited financial statements, be it on the outward side or on the inward side or on the tax payable. So this all of us are quite clear. Now, when you look at 44 subsection 2, which was there up till July 2021, if you will read, it said that every registered person who is required to get its accounts audited in accordance with provision of subsection 5 of section 35 shall furnish electronically. So he was required to furnish electronically something. What was that? Annual return under subsection 1, along with copy of audited annual accounts and reconciliation statement. So he was not only required to submit annual return, but he was also required to submit the copy of audited annual accounts and a reconciliation statement. Now you come to the amended 44. It says every registered person other than ISD or person registered under 5152 CTP and NRTP, person shall furnish an annual return which may include a self-certified reconciliation statement reconciling the value of supplies declared in the return furnished for the financial year with audited annual financial statement. And there is a clear omission of one word. That is, first, they have to obviously not get the accounts audited. Second, the unamended 44.2 talked about furnishing of copy of audited annual accounts. Whereas when you look at new 44, it does not talk about furnishing of copy of audited annual accounts. So that means section not only said that you don't have to get the account audited by a chartered accountant, you don't have to furnish a certified statement from a chartered accountant or a cost accountant, but it also said now you're not required to furnish the audited annual accounts. You come to rule 80, that is the manner in which this filing needs to be done. So again, up till July 2021, rule 80 says that he has to furnish copy of audited annual accounts, reconciliation statement, duly certified in form GSTR 9C. Again, rule 80 also talked about furnishing of copy of audited annual accounts. Come to new rule 80, 80 sub rule 3 effect from August 2021. And it says again, the taxpayer has to furnish the self-certified reconciliation statement as specified in section 44 in form GSTR 9C along with annual return referred in subsection 1. And here also you see that audited annual accounts, they have clearly omitted or they have not been mentioned in the amended rules. Meaning thereby, at least the section and rule now does not require all of us to submit the audited annual accounts. Now it has two implications. One, what will happen to all those cases where, let's say I am an individual, I am not a company, I'm not a partnership firm, I'm not an LLP. I am not required to get audit under any of the provisions of Companies Act, LLP or any other act. Let's say my total income under income tax is also beyond 2 crore rupees, but that is either from house property or from other sources. So I'm not getting my books of accounts audited under section 44 AB of the Income Tax Act. Now the problem is when I come to GST and my turnover is beyond 5 crore rupees, it says that reconciliation will be done from audited annual accounts, but it does not say that you have to submit the audited annual accounts. First question that taxpayer will have is, under which act I am required to get my books of accounts audited? Answer to that question was there up till July 2021, where we had section 35 subsection 5, which has been omitted now. Where 35.5 said that at least under the GST Act, you get your books of accounts audited if in case it is not there in any other act. Now, because we do not have 35.5, it does not have any section under which of the GST Act where he has to get the books of accounts audited. Now, because he can't get the audit under GST Act, there is no other act which requires him to get the books of account audited, under which act a professional will certify the books of account. And if professional will not certify the books of account, how will the compliance done of reconciliation? Because reconciliation is still linked with audited annual accounts. So there I understand the manner in which this amendment has been done. There is some goof up in the language or the understanding. However, again, all of you must have heard it from maybe other speaker, or you must have also analyzed this. Reading CGST Act and its rule is one thing, and looking at its implication on GST portal is altogether another thing. When you try and look at what amendment or what changes have come on the GST portal, this is the snapshot of GST portal somewhere taken in the month of December 2021 in my office, where you see that in GSTR 9C it says indicate mandatory fields on the right hand side. So that means these attachments are mandatory, and it says balance sheet is mandatory and profit and loss account, income expenditure account is mandatory. So rule and section are saying now you're not required to submit the audited annual accounts, but GST portal is saying if you don't submit it, at least you will not be able to proceed further and file GSTR 9C. And again, this is one of those cases where GST portal is at the supremacy, or it looks like it is at a higher pedestal than what basically Parliament intends to do and what their executive intends to do. I don't see a problem for people where why would they not want to upload the books of account or audited financials. So probably you would ask me a question कि अगर ऐसा ही था तो इतनी देर बोलने की क्या जरूरत थी कि ऑडिटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स अपलोड करने की रिक्वायरमेंट लॉ में तो नहीं है, रूल्स में भी नहीं है, पर जीएसटी पोर्टल के ऊपर है. But this is one of those cases where portal kind of diverts or deviates from what is written in the provisions of the Act. And I think we have to always strictly follow what is written in the law. That will always have a supremacy in the long run, but not what is happening on the GST portal. That means what I understand from my basic reading of it, even if I want to upload, let's say, basic 4 figures of my books of account and not upload a complete balance sheet and profit and loss account, I can do that, and law gives me that flexibility. Law allows me to do that. Maybe GST portal would not do it, but I would abide by what is written in the law or in the rule, but not on the GST portal. What is the current status? All of us know that dates have been extended up till February 2022. We can file over GSTR 9 and 9C for financial year 21-22. But with that exemption, what has come is, and which was already there through this notification number 31, dated 30th of July, that all those who have an aggregate turnover of less than 2 crore rupees, they are not required to file annual return. Now, again, very interesting thing. If you will compare this with notification number 31 with the relaxation which has already been there for financial year 17-18, 18-19 and 19-20. For financial year 17-18, if all of you will remember, when this relaxation came for all those people having turnover less than 2 crore rupees, they were given an option to file their annual returns. So the manner in which that notification was written, I think that number was 47 of 2019. The manner in which it was written, it always said that it is optional for you to file the annual return. If you don't file it, it shall be deemed to have been filed. Now this notification is not worded in that manner. ये notification बोलता है आपका turnover अगर 2 करोड़ रुपए से नीचे का है तो आपको annual return फाइल करने का जरूरत ही नहीं. अब इन दोनों का implication क्या है अलग अलग, we'll come to that. But हम उस पे आए उसके पहले, at least now we know we can bifurcate our clients in the office in 3 separate baskets for 3 separate types of compliances which is there. So first of all, my client has to be a regular registered taxable person. He did not be a casual taxable person, ISD, or person liable to deduct TDS or for his TDS or TCS registrations, but normal registered taxable person, not under that casual taxable, composition scheme also. If his turnover is less than 2 crore rupees, not required to file. So what you see on your right hand side in red bullet points or red color font, which is option to file 9. In fact, he does not have any option at all. He should not file it. Again, you go to the portal. Portal will not stop you from filing the annual return. So again, portal is drifting away what is mentioned in the notification. Number 1. All those having turnover between 2 crores to 5 crores, they are mandatorily required to file annual return, but they are not required to file GSTR 9C, that is reconciliation statement. And all those having turnover more than 5 crore rupees, they are mandatorily required to file GSTR 9, GSTR 9C, with only difference. Earlier, it was supposed to be certified by a practicing chartered accountant or a cost accountant. Now it has to be only self-certified. And that self-certification, it is going to have some implication. And we'll discuss that implication in a while. So these are 3 types of compliances which needs to be done up till 28th of February 2022 for financial year 21-22. Now, as I was talking about this notification number 47/2019, which came for financial year 17-18. Now you look at the language and maybe somewhere you read this red color font words which are there. It says that a class of registered person who shall in respect of financial year 17-18 and 18-19 follow a special procedures such that said person shall have the option to furnish the annual return. And then there was a proviso which said in case you don't furnish, it shall be deemed to have been furnished. What is the meaning and implication of it? That means in 17-18, 18-19, for all those people having turnover of less than 2 crore rupees, I'm talking about a small taxpayer, chota vyapari, who thought, okay, let's not file the annual return. Kya farak padta hai? Because government has now given this notification. In all those cases, still the law was written in a manner that all of them were still filing annual return. Maybe system will do it, or it shall be deemed to have been filed with the figures which are there on the GST portal. Now for 2021 notification says you are exempted from filing. Matlab kya hai? Matlab is linked with this explanation 2 to section 74. So what is section 74? Section 74 is one of the sections where if a departmental officer has to issue a show cause notice to me, if I have not paid tax, short paid tax, taken a wrong credit, or maybe wrongly utilized a credit, then he may issue a show cause notice. And he can always allege कि मैंने जानबूझ के टैक्स पे नहीं करा. जानबूझ के टैक्स पे नहीं करने का reason, one of the reasons is suppression. I have suppressed some information from the department. And there was a meaning of suppression which was given in the explanation. What was mentioned in the explanation? Explanation says suppression shall mean non-declaration of facts or information which a taxable person is required to declare in the return, statement, report, or any other document furnished under this act or rules made thereunder. And we'll stop here. We'll not go to the second part. That is irrelevant. So it clearly said कि अगर कोई information of fact मुझे declare करने की जरूरत थी और मैंने अगर declare नहीं करा उसको, that will lead to suppression. That means in 17-18 and 18-19, all those people who have filed auto-populated details, for them there is a problem. The problem is if actual figures were different from the auto-populated details which are there on the GST portal, their department will always have one of the points to argue that it may lead to suppression. However, for 19-20, 20-21, department cannot allege that कि आपने annual return file नहीं करा और आपने अपना correction नहीं करा, it will lead to suppression. However, in 17-18, 18-19, department has to still prove that it is not only suppression, but it is a willful suppression कि आपने जानबूझ के नहीं करा. So there we have some leeway. But the purpose of explaining this is कि all those people who have a turnover less than 2 CR rupees, 2 CR, if they are not filing their returns or at least annual return, if they want to do it on the GST portal, that's what GST portal is allowing. Law is not asking you to do that. Even if there are some corrections and tomorrow by way of a notice when it comes for let's say assessment or otherwise, और आपको जवाब देने की जरूरत पड़ती है and you are able to bring out कि मेरी monthly returns में और मेरी annual books में कोई difference है, department cannot take an argument by saying कि आपने annual return file नहीं करा तो आपका willful suppression था. However, for 17, 18, 19, they may take that argument. So this is a point in our favor for at least this year 2021, which all of us should keep a note of. If tomorrow any departmental officers says anything of that sort, we should be ready with our argument in that regard. Now, coming to all those people who have to do the compliance, जिनको annual return file करना है, जिनका turnover 2 करोड़ से ऊपर है या उसके ऊपर 5 करोड़ से ऊपर है. First, all of us know that since 17-18 till this 2021, there have been certain relaxations by way of a notification. When you look at the annual return form and GSTR 9C, it has a lot of tables. Tables running from 17 here, 5 parts or 6 parts in GSTR 9C. And at some point we realize कि इसमें कुछ ऐसी information भी है which may not impact the totals of my annual return or reconciliation statement, but extracting that information from my books of account or ERP थोड़ा challenging हो सकता है वो मेरे लिए कि इतना information available ना हो. And that is why a lot of people said that these forms are very complicated. So what happened very interestingly or in a strategic manner, government every year came out with a notification for certain relaxations. So government did not say ki you don't have to maintain the proper records. And mind you friend, that's the important catch here. Every year we have certain relaxations for annual return and GSTR 9C, where punching of data in certain tables, in certain tabs of annual return and 9C have been basically exempted or it has been relaxed. But that relaxation does not mean that I'm not supposed to keep the data. मुझे data तो आज भी maintain करने की जरूरत है. मुझे section 35 और rule 56 के हिसाब से जो GST record maintain करना चाहिए, that record I have to maintain. I cannot say that just because I was given certain relaxations in annual return or GSTR 9C, I have not maintained that record. So what is this? This is only procrastination of preparation of information. If you're smart, you will get it. That government is only saying जब notice आएगा तब information निकाल कर दे देना. If probably you have not read it, maybe you are thinking अच्छा ये जितना भी छूट दे रहा है इसका मतलब मुझे record maintain करने की जरूरत नहीं है. So that's not the case. So what are those things which are relaxed? Government is saying now you don't have to punch details of credit notes and debit notes separately in your GSTR 9. So table of 4 or table 5. I will be using table numbers. So in case you have your annual returns and 9C in front of you, that will be better. But I will not go into that basics key. What is that table? So I will use the table numbers. So this table number 4 and 5, where you have to punch the details of outward supplies in various tables. There, credit note, debit note details, we can skip giving separately and we can punch all of that data and put that in the total output supplies which we have made. So that's one option which is available with me. Same is the case with amendments on. So in case I have made certain amendments in my GST returns, I need not give them separately. If I have them separately, that is well and good. If I don't have them, I may punch that in a consolidated manner. Similarly, exempted supplies, nil rated, non-GST, no supply. Government said don't fall in this don't fall in the catch of this terminology कि अलग-अलग सबका क्या मतलब है. सीधी सी बात है जिसपे टैक्स नहीं दिया है उन सबको आप एक टेबल में डाल के छोड़ दीजिए. We will get it that you have not paid tax on this particular figure. Third, coming to the input side, bifurcation of input services, capital goods. तो 17-18 और 18-19 के अंदर तो ऐसा था that government said okay capital goods का detail separately देने की जरूरत नहीं है, input और input services का भी देने की जरूरत नहीं है. From 1920 what government did is they said no capital goods का detail we want separately and they have a specific reason for it. And they understand capital goods का detail निकालना आसान है because आपकी balance sheet में जो assets आ रहे हैं जिसपे आप credit ले रहे हैं that's technically what capital goods is in common sense. Or in fact on the basis of reading of the definition. वो capital goods के ऊपर जो credit है you punch separately. So at least for again 2021 bifurcation of input and input services not required separately, but ITC taken on capital goods that needs to be punched separately in table number 6. Reversal on account of non-payment to supplier within 180 days, exempted supplies, other reversal. One may not again break his head कि चारों अलग-अलग कैसे report कर रहे हैं, but you may punch all the reversals you have done in the year in GST returns consolidated in one particular manner. Table 8 for financial year 17-18, 18-19 it was optional. In fact optional in manner कि आपको table 8 में data punch नहीं करना है तो आप PDF separately upload कर सकते थे. That facility is not there for 2021 also, meaning thereby you can't skip table number 8. And again, that becomes one of the basis for issuing us notices by department. And it has been done in last 1 year or so. And then table number 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18. That is for ITC reversed in subsequent year, ITC claimed in subsequent year relating to the previous year. Details of refund claim, details of supplies received from a composition person, goods sold under approval basis, HSN summary of outward supplies, HSN summary of inward supplies. All these tables are optional. If one wants to fill the information, that is well and good. If one does not want to fill this information, still the form GST 9 will be treated as proper and duly filed. Why these tables have been made optional? Because these tables do not have impact on the totals of the figure which go in GSTR 9C. And again, that is important thing to understand. कि ऐसा नहीं है कि मुझे उसका डिटेल मेंटेन करने की जरूरत नहीं है कि मैंने कितना क्रेडिट इस साल का ऐसा है जो अगले साल में लिया है, कितना क्रेडिट इस साल का ऐसा है जो मैंने रिवर्स किया है. But government is saying, if this is not impacting our total of annual return, let us make it optional, but don't tell us next year if we give you a notice to ask कि आपने बताइए कितना क्रेडिट अगले साल लिया. I can't say कि मैंने वो रिकॉर्ड मेंटेन नहीं करा because आपने उसको exempt कर रखा था. So that is important takeaway from this. When we come to GSTR 9C, that is the reconciliation statement to be filed for all those registered person having turnover more than 5 crore rupees. There we have one table which basically reconciles our turnover, books turnover with the value of outward supplies which we punch in annual return. There it has lot of tables, lot of reasons. Again, government said थोड़ा procrastinate कर देते हैं. आप अभी एनुअल अपने रिकंसिलिएशन स्टेटमेंट में अलग अलग रीजंस मत बताइए, आप एक जगह डाल के छोड़ दीजिए इन टेबल इन रो नंबर 5 ओ. बाद में जब हम नोटिस देके पूछेंगे तो हमें हमारे प्रॉपर ऑफिसर को आप एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिएगा. So again, I will always suggest to all my professional colleagues that we should always make an endeavor to punch the details in 5B to 5N properly so that it becomes self-explanatory. Otherwise, you're punching details in 5O, clearly you're telling the tax officer to give yourself a notice and let him ask you कि बताइए 5O में आपने क्या भरा है along with the necessary supporting documents. So that's kind of basically becomes tricky. Then similarly in terms of ITC, input tax credit in table 12B, 12C and table 14. 12B and 12C is ITC of previous year claimed in current year, ITC of current year claimed next year. Government is saying put that as an option, don't fill it. You may give that information subsequently. And table 14, that is ITC on the basis of your profit and loss account, the bifurcation of your ITC on the basis of various heads which are there in your profit and loss account and compare with the annual return, that is still optional. All these have been optional since last 3 years. This 4th year also they are optional. But my purpose of saying this is that maybe in the initial years, we never thought of what implication it is going to have. But the kind of notices which we see now coming in last 1 year, I will always suggest that we should not take these options and we should opt for the options of not filing it. But we should actually make an endeavor that we should file all these details to the maximum extent possible, because the kind of working which we can do at this point of time, it will be very difficult for the taxpayer to give us the same information after maybe 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, when department asks us this information maybe in course of their audit or their notice for scrutiny or assessment otherwise. Now, with this background, one of the most important changes basically this year for 2021 is the verification page of GSTR 9C. And there I see a lot of those things basically which has been slipped in धीरे धीरे, मतलब slipped in बिल्कुल चुपके से slip in कर दिया लैंग्वेज के अंदर चेंज, जो होना भी था ऑब्वियसली बिकॉज सर्टिफिकेशन खत्म हो गया. बट इसका इम्प्लीकेशन थोड़ा बड़ा है. इम्प्लीकेशन बड़ा ऐसे है, आप जुलाई 2021 तक जो 9C का वेरिफिकेशन पेज था which was to be certified by a cost accountant or a chartered accountant, where those practicing professionals have to give a declaration where they say, I hereby solemnly affirm and declare that information given here and above is true and correct and to the best of my knowledge and belief, and nothing has been concealed therefrom. So that it always said true and correct. But along with that, those 5-6 words which are very important, that phrase, to the best of my knowledge and belief, that is मेरी knowledge के हिसाब से जितना मुझे पता है और जितनी मेरी understanding है, belief है, उसके हिसाब से. Now with effect from August 2021, that this declaration needs to be given by that registered person who is filing this GSTR 9C, and see what he is declaring. He is declaring, I hereby solemnly affirm and declare that information given here and above is true and correct. And you find that phrase is missing, that is the best of my knowledge and belief. That means he is saying whatever is written here, that is true and correct. Now, what is true and correct if it is not based on my knowledge and belief, which clearly it should not be, because ये तो मेरी books है. If I am that registered person who is giving this declaration, and I can't take a view by saying कि मेरी knowledge or belief के हिसाब से, I am saying it is there in my books of account, and what is there in my books of account, on the basis of it that reconciliation is there. What is the impact? Impact suddenly it means is that now GSTR 9C is not a statement by a third party, but is a statement which is by that same taxpayer. तो पहले एक shield था. There was that cover which was available with the taxpayer, where he always said that this is a professional judgment which has been done by a professional in GSTR 9C, that now shield has been taken away. That means any information which has been omitted in GSTR 9C, department can always take a view by saying it becomes a case of a suppression. Now, whether it is willful or not, वो fact to fact depend करेगा. Second, any incorrect particular, it becomes a case for a misstatement. Again, that misstatement is willful or not, that depends on the fact. This misstatement and suppression, both of them can be starting point for triggering of a show cause notice under section 74. That means all the taxpayers should understand that just like annual return was their statement, 9C also becomes their statement, and any information which is here, it cannot be based on an audit. Meaning thereby, पहले हम कहते थे ये GST audit का part है. And all of us know that audit cannot be on 100% basis. We always used to take reference to our auditing standards, going on the basis of sample, on the basis of belief, on the basis of text checking, on my professional judgment. Now, all those things have been wiped off. Whatever figure is there, taxpayer is saying, I am taking full responsibility of it. Some figure which is not there in GSTR 9C, taxpayer is taking responsibility of that also. That figure is not there because I am declaring that it is true and correct. That figure is 0. I am not supposed to punch the figure. So that is kind of an added responsibility which is there on the taxpayer. Next, the most important thing. Pehle there was a audit observation from the professional where he was saying what were the books of accounts which were maintained by the registered person. And if certain accounts were not maintained, there was a declaration given for it. Ki assessee has not maintained delivery challan register, he has not maintained stock register and all those things. Now that certification part of GSTR 9C has been omitted. वो है ही नहीं. Because certification part separately nahi hai, there is no place statutorily available in the forms where taxpayer can go ahead and say ki these records I have not specifically maintained. Now, what is the implication? So there is this section 35 subsection 6, 5 and 6, which basically says that if certain records have not been maintained by a taxpayer, or they have not been made, or certain recording has not been done in the records properly, then tax officer can go ahead and on the basis of his understanding can go ahead for the basis of best judgment. But if taxpayer has a problem in maintaining the proper records, he can always approach to the jurisdiction commissioner and request for waiver of those records in a particular manner. At least application छोड़िए, पहले वो record declare कर सके that I have not maintained that record at all. उसके पास पहले GSTR 9C में उसका जो auditor है या जो person certify कर रहा था 9C उसको declare कर सकता था. That information is not, that place is not available now. Similarly, all of us as professionals have given a lot of limitations, lot of remarks, lot of restrictions in our GSTR 9C which we have certified. Now there is no space specifically available. And last is most important, in some of the cases in GSTR 9C, auditor has recommended that there is some additional tax which needs to be paid. Assessee always had an option not to agree with this because he was not bringing out this liability. The auditor was bringing this liability. Now, whatever difference which comes from the reconciliation, assessee can't say that it is a difference, but I will not pay the tax. It is like self-declaring that there is a short payment of tax, but again saying even after self-declaration, I'm not going to pay. So that implication is quite huge that GSTR 9C now becomes quite an important document. What additional burden it brings in, which taxpayer should be aware of, या फिर at least as professionals, we should know कि अब जो GSTR 9C file हो रहा है, how department will look at it separately or how department can at least make an attempt to look at it separately. सबसे पहले for all those entities who had multiple GST numbers. So there the biggest problem was that their audited financial statement were only one for Pan India. Obviously, they're going to be one for Pan India. Nobody signs GST and wise balance sheets. Now, when the audit, let's say I am sitting in Rajasthan, you are in Maharashtra, your tax officers looks at your GSTR 9C and he sees a turnover of, let's say, 10 crore rupees. And overall turnover of the financial statements is, let's say, 40 crore rupees. So he will ask me कि पहले दिखाओ GSTR 9C जो राजस्थान का फाइल हुआ है उसके अंदर 30 करोड़ का टर्नओवर है. Now, before this 2021 financial year, till the time the GST auditors were separate, there was always an option available to say कि राजस्थान वाले ऑडिटर ने क्या फिगर लिया उससे मुझे क्या लेना देना. I can explain कि महाराष्ट्र का टर्नओवर is 10 crore rupees. Now going forward, that option, at least to my limited understanding, will not be available with the taxpayer. He has to ensure and explain that whatever figure is coming in Maharashtra GST, uska reconciliation overall turnover के साथ में कैसा है, because there is that one person who is filing this details. तो यहाँ पर एक difference है कि आप वो reconciliation, it has to be spot on with the overall turnover which is there. Second, when you look at GST 9C, talks about eligible credit which is there in books of account, and the taxpayer is giving a declaration that information is true and correct. That means the figures of ITC which are punching in table 12, that taxpayer is taking responsibility of eligibility of the credit, meaning thereby he is saying that all 4 conditions which were applicable, receipt of goods and services, proper invoice, maybe in the e-invoice format also, filing of return by me, and payment of tax by the supplier, at least to my understanding, I have complied with all of those. As a auditor, again, पहले हम कहते थे कि हमारा काम सिर्फ reconcile करना है 2 figures को. अब the assessee would not be able to say कि मैंने सिर्फ reconcile करा है. He would always say that I have also ensured that proper details have been maintained. So next, going to the applicable rate of tax, if assessee says कि नहीं applicable rate of tax HSN के साथ में देखना मेरी responsibility नहीं थी, ऑडिटर ये चीज कह सकता था कि ये HSN के ऊपर क्या रेट ऑफ टैक्स अप्लाई हुआ है वो मेरे को GSTR 9C में देखने का जरूरत नहीं था. Now assessee can't deny that, and he has to ensure that he explains that his classification was proper and valid. So at least ये 3 बड़े implication है which I understand that whatever figures are being punched in GSTR 9C, they have an important implication. Now, when you're doing compliance for 2021 and of annual return, all of us should be aware that it was a year which was hit by COVID. And because it was a year hit by COVID, there were some relaxations which were given by CBIC at the inception of the year, when COVID had hit the country at the fag end of March 2020. So for April, May, June, there were certain relaxations which were given. So that relaxation we have to be aware of, that at least for initial 3-4 months, that for ITC matching, that time limit of bringing back goods from the job workers' premises, time limits for filing the refund claim, certain relaxations on late fees, payment of interest and the calculation of interest, those relaxations were there. When you are doing the compliance, looking at the annual compliances, and you realize that there is some mismatch from the routine compliances or provisions, try and go back to look at the notifications which were issued somewhere in the month of March 2020 and April 2020. Try to reconcile कि 4 महीने के अंदर अगर कोई ऐसे benefits थे जो assessee ने लिए हैं, तो उसके हिसाब से he was entitled for those benefits and no additional tax is payable in that regard. But at the same time, we have to ensure कि कुछ चीजें हैं जिसके ऊपर relaxation नहीं आया था. And they were in many ways, some people understood that relaxations were also applicable on maybe for time of supply provision or payment to the supplier within 180 days. ये 2 चीजें ऐसी हैं जहां पर कोई relaxation नहीं था. Meaning thereby, if I was supposed to make an invoice as per the provision of section 12 and section 13, or rather I will correct myself, I was supposed to prepare an invoice as per provision of section 31 and I link it with time of supply provisions under section 12 and 13, उसको लेके कोई relaxation नहीं था. So because of COVID, it could not have been a reason कि मैंने invoice late बनाया हो. If somebody has done that, in that case, he was basically required to pay the interest in case he has not made the invoice properly. But somebody prepared an invoice, filed return late, in that case, there was an extension available. तो दोनों situation में gap है, difference है, दोनों के relaxations अलग-अलग है, which maybe as a professional, when we file our 9C for the client, we should be aware of. 2021 talked about 2 new compliances, and these 2 compliances had hit both sides, both at the supplier side and at the recipient side. If your client was basically a supplier of goods or services having aggregate turnover of more than 500 crore rupees in, let's say, any of the previous financial years from 17-18 to 19-20, then he was basically required to issue invoice per output supply in e-invoicing format. और जनवरी 2021 के बाद से ये लिमिट को घटा के 500 करोड़ से 100 करोड़ कर दिया गया था. So you have to ensure that your all clients who were falling in this turnover limit, अक्टूबर 2020 के बाद से 500 करोड़ और अक्टूबर और जनवरी 2021 के बाद से 100 करोड़, they have issued the invoices in e-invoicing format. and all those who had a turnover of more than 5 crore rupees, basically उनको it was mandatory for them to punch HSN details in 6 digits. अब इसका implication क्या है? Maybe some of us would think कि ये तो सिर्फ उन लोगों के लिए है जिनका टर्नओवर काफी बड़ा था and they have to look at this compliance. But इसका actual implication recipient के ऊपर ज्यादा है supplier से, because all these suppliers जिनके ऊपर ये 100 करोड़ और 500 करोड़ के ऊपर e-invoicing compliance करना mandatory था, most of them were well aware of these provisions. Some of them might have followed these provisions a little later. उन्होंने इनका compliance हो सकता है थोड़े समय बाद किया हो सकता है कुछ लोगों को बाद में समझ में आया कि इसका compliance कैसे करना है, but somehow they have done the compliances. Implication किसके ऊपर है? तो पहले तो implication ये देखने के लिए important है कि हमने e-invoicing को देखा हो कि कौन-कौन से डॉक्यूमेंट के ऊपर एप्लीकेबल था, और वो आज भी इन्हीं डॉक्यूमेंट्स के ऊपर एप्लीकेबल है. दैट इज it is applicable for invoices which were maybe issued for export, normal outward supplies, for B2B transactions only, invoice with exempted supplies and taxable supplies, both, not only for exempted supplies but both for exempted and taxable supplies, and again for invoices under RCM except GTA, क्योंकि GTA को एक specific exemption दिया हुआ था. ये सारे invoices अगर किसी recipient को मिले हैं and that recipient is registered under GST, then in that case you have to ensure कि supplier ने इसको e-invoicing format में दिया है, along with it should have an IRN. इन्हीं के अगर credit note debit note है या कोई भी B2B के credit note debit note issue हुए after October 20 or January 21 as the case may be, then in that case there should have been an IRN in that particular regard along with the QR code. कौन से documents पे applicable नहीं है? All documents which you see on your right hand side, basically on exempted supplies, delivery challan, all those things, it was not applicable. Now, why am I bringing this in middle of this annual return compliances? I am bringing this because if your client is the recipient of the supplies from a person जिसके ऊपर e-invoicing की compliance is applicable थी, and if let's say that supplier has not duly complied with an e-invoice compliances and the invoice which he has given to your client does not have IRN, then in that case your client does not have a proper document on the basis of which he could have claimed input tax credit. और section 16 subsection 2 clause A की जो condition है उसने उसको satisfy नहीं किया है, that he has not taken credit on the basis of a proper document. तो ये identify कैसे होगा? So with every fortnight, GSTIN has basically issued a list of all those suppliers who were basically required to issue the e-invoice on various dates. Maybe your client जिसका आप annual compliance करने वाले, you can make available him that particular list. Ask him to find out whether उनके supplier इस list के अंदर covered है during this particular period, और अगर covered है तो उनके पास क्या invoice proper e-invoice format में with IRN available है या नहीं. अगर नहीं है, then in that case it can become a case where the input tax credit has not been claimed on a proper document, and department tomorrow can come forward and tell you that your credit is invalid. What is the solution? The solution is that all those suppliers who have not issued the IRN at that point of time, they should be told to issue the IRN maybe in the current date. It may lead to a litigation, but still it will be at least a substantive compliance done by the supplier in that particular regard. If your client is a supplier and he has not issued this document, then in that case उसके ऊपर penalty की applicability आ सकती है. Though obviously as a person who is doing a compliance, suo motu you should not go ahead and pay the penalty अगर means rea नहीं है or it's a clear omission, but yes, that can be one specific case in that particular regard. Along with this, from October 20 there was one more requirement which was applicable. So 6 महीने के लिए at least for all those people having turnover up to 5 crore rupees, they were mandatorily required to write 4-digit HSN code on their invoices. और जिनका टर्नओवर 5 करोड़ से ज्यादा का था उनको 6 डिजिट का HSN कोड लिखना जरूरी था on their invoices. Now think about this. If there was a requirement under the law with effect from this October 2020 to mention the HSN code, can your client say कि मैंने HSN कोड का रिकॉर्ड मेंटेन नहीं कर रखा है and that is why I can't fill table number 16 of GSTR 9? And if your client, let's say, is saying that I don't want to give information for table number 16 of GSTR 9, that means it is a clear invitation to the tax officer or a proper officer to ask later at a subsequent point of time कि हमें आपकी outward supplies आपके HSN के साथ में मैप चाहिए. The purpose of basically bringing this notification by government was that शुरुआत के period के अंदर where there was a lot of problem in understanding the HSN, गवर्नमेंट ने बोला 3 साल के लिए HSN को ऑप्शनल रख देते. तो रूल प्रोविजन में तो था, बट इनवॉइस पे किस तरीके से लिखा होना चाहिए उसको लेके देयर वाज काइंड ऑफ अ फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी गिवन. Now that when flexibility has been taken away, probably annual return is the correct time where we tell all our clients who will be punching details on the output supplies not to skip filing of details in table number 16, जहां पे हमें HSN wise output supply का detail देना होता है. I'm sure majority of us have been maintaining that. If you punch that in GSTR 9, it is going to be a proper compliance. If your client is little reluctant in doing so, अगर वो नहीं करना चाहता है उस केस के अंदर, it kind of gives an opening to the tax officer to maybe initiate and look for why that taxpayer did not want to give the HSN wise details. Now, what should be the approach to file these returns? That is also going to be quite interesting to see. हम सब लोगों ने अपने अपने हिसाब से एनुअल रिटर्न्स की जो टेबल 4 और 5 है आउटपुट सप्लाईज की, we have punched that in our particular own way of filing it. Now, what has happened is because every year we have to look for the impact of previous year and the impact of next year. When you look at the instructions which have come with GSTR 9 in the notification along with the form which is there, some of us get confused ki basically what do they want to do. इसके रिस्पेक्ट में there was a press release also which came somewhere on 1st of July 2019 where they kind of explain the purpose of punching the details in annual return. And when you read the press release which is there, instruction with the returns, one thing is quite certain that basically what they are trying to say is कि सबसे पहले जो आपने टैक्स पे करा है अपने GSTR 3B के थ्रू, maybe through your cash ledger or through your credit ledger, that tax which you have paid, you reconcile that with the tax which is coming in your books of account. And that is why the correct approach, at least the approach which I understand would be, you would be able to explain to the tax officer better, can outward supplies when we're punching in our annual return, how we should do that. The approach should be that first of all, we should take our GST registers from our books of account, जिसको हम हमारी accounting की भाषा में बोलते हैं sales register. But it is not only the sales register, but sales register along with all other details on which we have paid tax as per our books of account. Take that, and that register which we call technically as per GST records as outward register, we compare that with details which we have punched in table 3.1A and 3.1B of GSTR 3B. तो हमने GSTR 3B की जो 3.1A और 3.1B जो टेबल है उसके साथ हमारा आउटवर्ड टैक्स जो हमने हमारी बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट में दिखाया है, वी शुड गो एंड कंपेयर दैट, मैच इट. ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ मैचिंग, इफ द फिगर्स व्हिच आर टोटली गेटिंग मैच, जो मेरी GSTR 3B में भी है और मेरे बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट के अंदर भी है, दैट शुड टेक्निकली फॉर्म पार्ट ऑफ माय टेबल नंबर 4. जो मेरी exempted supplies है as per my books of account on which I have not paid tax, that should form part of my table number 5. Now, after this, I can have two kinds of differences. Something which is there in the books of account but not in my GST returns, that is GSTR 3B, and something which is there in my GSTR 3B but not there in my books of account. All those supplies not reported in return, they should technically form part of my table 10. All those supplies over reported in my GSTR 3B as compared to books of account, that should form part of my table number 11. और इसमें से भी जो supplies मैं already पिछले साल 10 और 11 में दिखा चुका, I should reduce that. So the purpose of basically saying this is my initiation point should be my books of account, my outward tax liability record, comparing with that liability which I've reported in my GSTR 3B, and then whatever difference which comes in, then I have to see if I have to put that in 10, 11 or I have already put that in last year's 10 and 11. यहाँ पर फिर एक सवाल आएगा, that means should I completely overlook my GSTR 1? And answer to that is no. That is the second check which I have to bring in. Why? Because of this phrase which you see on your screen, which is called a self-assessed tax. So all of us know that there was this judgment given by the MP High Court in case of Kabir Reality Private Limited. 2020, this judgment was given by the MP High Court. Issue there was somebody filed GSTR 1, जहां पे उन्होंने अपनी output liability को declare करा, but somehow they did not declare that in their GSTR 3B, and GSTR 3B was filed nil. Departmental officer came forward and he initiated the recovery proceedings without giving a show cause notice under section 73 or 74. assessee filed a writ petition in the High Court by saying कि मुझे 73-74 में show cause notice तो आपको देना चाहिए था. You can't directly recover this tax because this is not a self-assessed tax. Self-assessed tax वो होता है जिसकी recovery directly करी जा सकती है, but self-assessed tax has to be declared in the return, and GSTR1 is not a return; it is a statement of outward supplies. MP High Court said nothing doing. Whatever you're declaring in your GSTR1 is technically for the purpose of which you want to pay tax. So that kind of becomes your tax on the outward supplies. उसको आप कंपेयर करिए अपनी GSTR 3B के साथ में, और अगर गैप है तो ऑफिसर इज प्रॉपर इन गोइंग अहेड एंड रिकवरिंग दैट पर्टिकुलर टैक्स. इंटरेस्टिंगली इसी लाइन के ऊपर एक अमेंडमेंट है जो जनवरी 2022 से एप्लीकेबल है, एंड जो काबिल रियलिटी में एमपी हाईकोर्ट ने कहा on similar lines there is an explanation added in section 75 subsection 12. So it may not impact your 2021 on the basis of law, but MP High Court judgment is still there. And 75 subsection 12 explanation says that for the purpose of self-assessed tax, it shall include the tax which has been declared under the statement under section 37, that is statement of outward supplies, but not included in the return under section 39, that is GSTR 3B. Meaning thereby, हम जब GSTR 3B से हमारी बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट के टैक्स को कंपेयर कर रहे हैं और उसके हिसाब से टेबल नंबर 4 और टेबल नंबर 5 को जब पंच कर रहे हैं, वी हैव टू इंश्योर कि जो टैक्स लाइबिलिटी हमारी 3B के अंदर है उतनी ही टैक्स लाइबिलिटी हमारी GSTR 1 के अंदर हो. अगर GSTR 1 में टैक्स लाइबिलिटी ज्यादा है, आई हैव टू रिकंसाइल दैट लाइबिलिटी ऑफ GSTR 1 विद व्हाटएवर इज देयर इन माय GSTR 3B. बट वो मेरा सेकंड चेक होगा, मेरा पहला चेक नहीं हो सकता. पहला चेक हैज टू बी बुक्स एंड 3B. After that 3B and 1, whatever is excess reported in GSTR 1, I have to ensure either I give a proper explanation of it in maybe some annexure with GSTR 9C. If I am not giving an basically explanation to it, the better way will be to actually pay tax through annual return and then claim a refund if that is possible. अगर मैंने गलती से ज्यादा सप्लाईज दिखा दी है GSTR 1 में जिसका मैं explanation नहीं दे सकता हूं, then the correct way would be to actually pay tax and then claim a refund. और ये मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूं because this 7512 has came by way of an explanation, and tomorrow you will see department will come forward and always say कि explanation के through आया है, 7512 में कोई amendment नहीं. And explanation, it always is retrospective in nature. It is deemed as if it was always there from July 2017. That is why tomorrow difference between 3B and 1, maybe it is applicable from January 2022, but department can come forward and say it would be applicable for the previous periods also. So that is why 9, it is important that you look at from that particular perspective. Now, when you do all of this, one question which generally comes up when we file our GSTR 9 is, what should I do for the interest? स्पेसिफिकली जो टेबल नंबर 10 के अंदर मैं मेरी लाइबिलिटी दिखाता हूं GSTR 9 के अंदर, दैट इज द लाइबिलिटी फॉर द करंट ईयर पेड इन नेक्स्ट ईयर. लेट्स से मेरे 3B1 के कारण मैं कोई एडिशनल लाइबिलिटी डिक्लेयर कर रहा हूं, शुड आई पे इंटरेस्ट ऑन दैट पार्ट आल्सो, और डिपार्टमेंट कैन रिकवर इट विदाउट अ शो कॉज नोटिस. And in this regard also there is a judgment from Gujarat High Court in respect of Rajkamal Builders Infrastructure Private Limited. The question which was asked in this writ petition before the Honorable High Court was that is department required to issue a show cause, or can department issue a show cause notice under section 73 and 74 for recovery of interest? Honorable High Court said कि सिर्फ इंटरेस्ट के लिए तो 73-74 में शो कॉज नहीं हो सकता अगर असेसी ने टैक्स चुकाया हुआ है तो वहां पर तो हाई कोर्ट ने बोला कि सिर्फ इंटरेस्ट के लिए शो कॉज नोटिस नहीं हो सकता. बट हाई कोर्ट वेंट अ स्टेप अहेड और उन्होंने बोला इंटरेस्ट के लिए डायरेक्टली DRC 07 हो सकता है बिकॉज दैट इज अ नोटिस फॉर रिकवरी ऑफ इंटरेस्ट और एनी अदर अमाउंट. सो काइंड ऑफ द जजमेंट काइंड ऑफ सजेस्ट कि अगर डिपार्टमेंट चाहे तो डायरेक्ट रिकवरी इंटरेस्ट की कर सकता है, दो आई डोंट पर्सनली अग्री टू दिस. But kind of again, it gives that an opening to the department to tomorrow come forward and give all of us notices कि आपकी GSTR 9 में टेबल 10 के अंदर आपने कुछ लाइबिलिटी डिक्लेयर करी है, दैट मीन लाइबिलिटी पर्टेनिंग टू प्रीवियस ईयर पेड इन नेक्स्ट ईयर, और आपकी GSTR 9 में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. सो दैट इज व्हाई वी वांट टू रिकवर द इंटरेस्ट, एंड देन इन द लाइट ऑफ दिस जजमेंट ऑफ द ऑनरेबल हाई कोर्ट दे मे गो अहेड एंड डायरेक्टली रिकवर दैट इंटरेस्ट अमाउंट. So what is suggested? It is always suggested that before any of these proceedings happen, we should always suggest our clients कि annual return के अंदर tax liability के साथ में we should also pay interest. Interest only to the extent जो tax हमने हमारे cash ledger से pay करा है, not through the credit ledger, because we have section 50 subsection 1 का proviso which has been added with effect from July 2017. retrospective amendment है, तो डिपार्टमेंट का नोटिस आए उसके पहले एनुअल रिटर्न के अंदर इट ऑलवेज मेक्स सेंस टू एक्चुअली पे इंटरेस्ट ओनली ऑन द कैश लायबिलिटी. Once we do that, we can save ourselves from any kind of proceedings where departments say that they want to recover the interest on the gross amount, they want to recover the interest without giving a show cause notice, they want to recover the interest on a directly recovery proceedings. So I think that is going to be quite an important thing to understand जब हम annual return file करते हैं तो. Now, coming to reporting of figures of RCM liability in our annual returns. Now, that is, I think, kind of a different, on a different footing as compared to the outward liability. जब हम अभी outward की बात कर रहे थे, I said that we will first of all we will look at the figures which are there in my books of account, then my 3B, whatever is matching, I'll put that in table number 4, and then subsequently what I have paid subsequently will go in my table number 10 and 11. RCM के केस में the manner in which the instructions are given for the RCM along with the form, they are slightly worded differently. When you look at the instruction says aggregate value of all inward supplies on which tax is to be paid by the recipient on reverse charge basis. Excuse me, meaning thereby this specific table 4G of GSTR 9, the intention of the makers of this table is that in respect of RCM liability, you declare your correct RCM liability irrespective how much amount you have paid in your GSTR 3B. तो अगर किसी ने कम टैक्स पे करा है GSTR 3B के अंदर रिवर्स चार्ज का, या किसी ने ज्यादा टैक्स पे करा है रिवर्स चार्ज का, that does not matter. The figures in 4G, they have to come on the basis of proper RCM liability which is there in your books of account, or what you understand is basically on which you had to pay tax. Whatever excess and short which has been paid, if short tax has been paid, the differential tax which has been paid subsequently should only form part of your table 14 in tax paid. उसको table 14 में सिर्फ tax paid में दिखाना है, और अगर कोई ज्यादा टैक्स पे हो गया, any which way it will remain extra and one can go ahead and file a refund application. In respect of RCM, all of us know it can never form part of table 10 and table number 11. So ये RCM के रिस्पेक्ट में जो रिपोर्टिंग है 4G के अंदर, वो बाकी जो आउटवर्ड की रिपोर्टिंग है उससे थोड़े डिफरेंट फुटिंग के ऊपर है. Now coming to very interesting table number 5 of GSTR 9. This table is that a specific details of it जिसमें somebody who has not paid tax on the outward supplies, और इसके अंदर बहुत सारी डिटेल्स के रिस्पेक्ट में बात हो सकती है. Basically, it can talk about those zero-rated supplies on which I have not paid tax under LUT, exempted, nil-rated, non-GST supplies, no supplies. One important difference again of this table from table number 4 is table number 4 जिसमें हम tax pay कर रहे थे, और टेबल नंबर 5 जिसमें हम बिना कोई टैक्स पे करे जो सप्लाईज मैंने करी हैं, मे बी ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट अंडर LUT और exempted. The important point is that in all these supplies they cannot have a spillover effect, meaning thereby if let's say my current year GSTR 3B, certain supplies which I forgot to report or certain supplies I have over reported, मैं टेबल नंबर 10 और टेबल नंबर 11 जो मेरी करंट GSTR 9 है, I will not go to that table and punch the difference. Whatever impact of these supplies which I have to give, that is in respect of any outward supplies exempted, short paid, not paid, short reported, not reported, or excess reported, the rectification of it that needs to be done in table number 5. That would be the correct way of correct approach of filing table number 5. Otherwise, you will see that if you keep a spillover effect of the figures of this table for the next year's annual return, suddenly your next year's annual return will become a little clogged. Now, one question in this whole table which always comes up on regular basis, what is this no supply? There is no concept called no supply, but still this table asks for no supply. And frankly speaking, this no supply, in my understanding, it only has a limited meaning. वो सारी सप्लाई जो शेड्यूल 3 के अंदर है, जो सेक्शन 7 के अंदर है, मे बी इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ सैलरी रिसीव और सेल ऑफ लैंड, सेल ऑफ बिल्डिंग, or maybe this high sea sales, warehouse transfer, these are all those supplies on which somebody they are neither treated as supply of goods nor treated as supply of services, and they should basically form part of no supplies. But some of the people generally have this understanding, can we use this no supply tab as a balancing figure? कि हमारी बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट में जितनी भी टोटल क्रेडिट साइड के ऊपर आ रहा है P&L के, उस क्रेडिट साइड में से जितना टैक्सेबल में गया उसको टैक्सेबल में डाल दिया, जितना एग्जेम्प्टेड में गया उसको एग्जेम्प्टेड में डाल दिया, बैलेंस सबको हमने वी पुट दैट इन नो सप्लाई. In my understanding, probably that would not be the correct way of punching this in details, because annual return ultimately is a form which is only restricted to the supplies which are under GST. So anything which is beyond the GST law, for example, accounting provisions, for example, exchange rate differences, for example, accounting adjustments of some expense reversed due to accounting adjustment or accounting standards, according to me, they should not form part of an annual return. That would not be correct approach also, because you look at it from the other side. एक तरीका तो ये है कि प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट के क्रेडिट साइड को मैच कराना is one of the ways. The other way is, once you punch details in no supplies or nil rated of anything of that sort, थोड़े सब्सिडरी क्वेश्चन जो खड़े हो जाते हैं. पहला, अब अगर ये मैंने सप्लाई दिखाई है which I am declaring as no supply from my side made to somebody, am I required to reverse the ITC? क्या मुझे इसका बिल ऑफ सप्लाई बनाने की जरूरत थी? बिकॉज बिल ऑफ सप्लाई में आर दो सप्लाई नॉन जीएसटी सप्लाईज, दे आर ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ द एग्जेम्प्टेड सप्लाईज. एंड सडनली यू विल रियलाइज कि जस्ट बिकॉज प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट का क्रेडिट साइड को एनुअल रिटर्न से मैच कराने के लिए मैंने इसको बैलेंसिंग फिगर के तौर पे इस्तेमाल करा है, सडनली आई हैव ऑल दी सब्सिडरी क्वेश्चंस व्हिच डिपार्टमेंट विल स्टार्ट आस्किंग मी. So only those things which are either non-GST, nil rated, exempted or schedule 3 supplies, or maybe which are mentioned in section 17.3 or section 17.4 for the purpose of ITC reversal, I will consider putting that in no supply. Else other things I will not punch that in my table 5 of GSTR 9. Coming to next table of GSTR 9, that is payment of tax. And I think this is that table which is, in my understanding, unfortunately, which is a little confusing in nature. Confusing because in this table from column number 3 to column number 7, these figures are blocked. You can't change them. And these are the details of tax paid which gets auto-populated from GSTR 3B. इस पूरी टेबल के अंदर अगर कोई फिगर जो अमेंड हो सकता है, that is figures which are there in column number 2, that is tax payable. Technically आपके टेबल नंबर 4 से जो फिगर फ्लो करता हुआ आ रहा है, that should come here in your tax payable table. Now the problem is, because tax paid के फिगर को हम चेंज नहीं कर सकते हैं, this table number 9 does not give effect to the impact or the things which are mentioned in circular number 26. तो दिसंबर 2017 में एक सर्कुलर नंबर 26 आया था. That circular always said कि whenever you pay some excess tax, whenever you pay some short tax in GSTR 3B, you can make amendments in subsequent returns. Now the problem is, till the time this tax paid tab cannot be changed, आप अगर tax payable को सिर्फ change करेंगे, so let's say मैंने कोई tax ज्यादा pay कर दिया, so I will reduce my tax payable, क्योंकि मेरा tax payable तो उतना नहीं है, पर tax paid ज्यादा हो जाएगा. Suddenly if I paid let's say short tax in current year, तो मेरा टैक्स पेबल को मैं बढ़ा दूंगा और टैक्स पेड मेरा उतना ही रहेगा. नाउ इसका नेक्स्ट ईयर जब इंपैक्ट होगा, लेट्स से आई पेड दैट बैलेंस टैक्स इन माय नेक्स्ट जीएसटीआर 3B अगले साल की, तो अगले साल में मेरा टैक्स पेड ज्यादा दिखेगा और टैक्स पेबल कम दिखेगा. एंड देयर समबडी हु वुड लुक एट टेबल 9, और अगर वो पिछले साल का टेबल 9 नहीं देखेगा, ही विल बी टेम्प्टेड टू गिव मी अ नोटिस कि मेरे ये साल के पेबल और पेड में डिफरेंस है और मुझे वो टैक्स पे करने की जरूरत है. So it is always suggested, whenever you're looking at table 9, also look at all these things which you see on your screen. ITC reversal, जिसका टैक्स आपने पे करा है, maybe through credit on cash, और वो आपकी overall ITC avail से ज्यादा था in particular return. You have paid some additional tax liability in respect of outward supplies. You have paid some additional tax in respect of your annual returns. All these things, you look at them, try to find out all the tax which was not there in GSTR 3B, but still you have paid that tax through DRC 03. It relates to the tax of your outward supplies. Financial year 2021 के outward supplies का tax जो आपने DRC 03 के through pay करा through any reason whatsoever, ensure that you include that tax payable in your GSTR 9, column number 2, and then you put that as a separate disclosure in your GSTR 9C as an attachment, क्यों आपकी table 9 के अंदर difference है. I think that is the only possible way in which you can explain your GSTR 9 table 9. Otherwise, it is going to be quite difficult for anybody to understand then what is the impact of it. Coming to table number 6 and 7 of GSTR 9. This table is where we do a ITC reconciliation. ITC, which is part of my GSTR 3B. Vis-a-vis the ITC, which I have basically, I am trying to give a bifurcation of it in my GSTR 9 in table 6 and ITC, which I have reversed. Now, again, important thing to understand, which generally people get confused with is, टेबल नंबर 4 और टेबल नंबर 5 में हम बुक से शुरुआत करते हैं और 3B पे जाते हैं, और टेबल नंबर 5 में तो हम करेक्ट हमारी आउटवर्ड लायबिलिटी को, आउटवर्ड सप्लाईज को रिपोर्ट करते हैं. However, table number 6 and table number 7, they are purely reconciliation tables. ना आप एडिशनल आईटीसी क्लेम कर सकते हैं टेबल नंबर 6 में, ना आप एडिशनल आईटीसी का रिवर्सल कर सकते हैं टेबल नंबर 7 में, बिकॉज इट डज नॉट बेसिकली चेंजेस द ओवरऑल टैक्स लायबिलिटी. इट ओनली रिकंसाइल्स कि आपने 3B में क्या किया है. That is why whenever we are punching table number 6 and table number 7, you have to ensure and you have to look at whatever is there in 6A, auto-populating from a GSTR 3B. That is total credit which is coming from a 12 GSTR 3Bs in from table number 4A. I am only giving a proper bifurcation of it. So what is government asking? Government is saying कि आपने 3B में जो क्रेडिट लिया है उसको अपने बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट में जो आपने रूल 56 के हिसाब से रिकॉर्ड मेंटेन किया है of input tax credit availed of input services, capital goods, reverse charge, you only give a bifurcation of it. उसके बाद जो आपका डिफरेंस आता है, whatever difference one is getting after that, there can be two possible reasons for it. One is जो पिछले साल की कोई इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट जो आपने इस साल में ली है उसको आपको टेबल 6B से 6H में डालने की जरूरत नहीं. टेक्निकली वो आपके पिछले साल के टेबल नंबर 13 में होनी चाहिए थी. जो पिछले साल आपने एनुअल रिटर्न फाइल करा उसके टेबल 13 में जो आपने फिगर डाला उसका डिफरेंस आपके टेबल 6J में आना चाहिए. That's what in fact one of the notifications which was issued for 1920 also says. I think notification number was 56 or 57 कि आपके वो फिगर टेबल 6J में आना चाहिए. उसके अलावा अगर कोई 6J में डिफरेंस आ रहा है that means you have claimed excess credit but you don't have to reverse it here. वो रिवर्स करने के लिए you have to file a DRC 03 separately. You come to table number 7. टेबल नंबर 7 ऑल्सो जनरली पीपल थिंक कि अगर मैंने कोई रिवर्सल नहीं किया है तो मैं उसको टेबल नंबर 7 में दिखा सकता हूं. अनफॉर्चुनेटली दैट इज नॉट द केस. In fact, instructions of table number 7 are quite clear. They say details of input tax credit reverse due to ineligibility or reversals required under specific rules. It only talks about ITC reversed. It does not talks about ITC to be reversed. So that is why if any reversal not done in GSTR 3B, टेबल नंबर 7 इज नॉट द प्लेस जहां पे आप वो रिवर्सल दिखाएं. वो रिवर्सल आपको सेपरेटली किसी DRC 03 के थ्रू करने की जरूरत है. नाउ लेट्स कम टू दैट टेबल व्हिच इज मोस्ट टॉक्ड अबाउट टेबल. दैट टेबल व्हिच इज अ रेडी केक फॉर द डिपार्टमेंट. व्हेनेवर दे ओपन एनुअल रिटर्न सबसे पहले वो टेबल नंबर 8 खोलते हैं. दे लुक एट 8D. व्हाटएवर फिगर आर कमिंग इन माइनस इन 8D, फॉर दैट डिपार्टमेंट सेज ये आईटीसी तो आपको रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा. एंड व्हाई डू दे से सो? They say because 8A is the auto-populated ITC coming from 2A. 8B and 8C is the ITC which you are saying in your annual return you have claimed in current year or you will claim in subsequent year for relating to this year up till September of the next year. और जो भी difference है that means आपके 2A से credit ज्यादा है और आपका credit 2A से ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता. इसकी बात थोड़ी देर बात करेंगे. उसके नीचे वाला आप टेबल देखिए which is even more funny. That says total tax paid on imports. उसमें से कितना क्रेडिट आपने इंपोर्ट पे लिया वो आपने ऊपर लिखा है which is getting linked from table 6 and coming here. और अगर आपने इंपोर्ट पे टैक्स ज्यादा पे करा है और आपने क्रेडिट कम लिया है so table 8K says that ITC is going to be lapsed. Now one basic fundamental question is क्या इंपोर्ट के केस में अगर मैंने कोई टैक्स पे करा है IGST can it lapse? And the answer is clearly no because section 16 subsection 4 के अंदर कोई टाइम लिमिट नहीं है इंपोर्ट का क्रेडिट लेने के लिए. The time limit is only in respect of invoices and debit notes. In respect of imports, we take credit on bill of entry. That is why अगर मैंने import का credit साल खत्म होने के 6 महीने बाद भी लिया है, still there is no problem. Unfortunately, table number 8 इस चीज को cater नहीं करता है, and that is why to that extent this table is little faulty on this interpretation. Now, first thing which comes in mind is can department tell me or issue me a notice on the basis of this table number 8? First, on a practical ground, they have been issuing notices. हम सबको ASMT 10 मिले हैं under scrutiny for return under section 61, where they have told us your ITC 8A is lesser than the ITC which you're writing in 8B and 8C, and a figure of 8D is negative, so you reverse that particular ITC. Before we give a reply to that, कुछ चीजें हैं जो हमें पता होनी चाहिए. First of all, government in their press release only on 3rd of July 19 have clarified that table number 8 is only for the purpose of information. That means it is only an information table for government settlement purposes. It cannot be a basis to say that my ITC is going to be reversed. That's point number 1. Point number 2, whatever is coming in my 8A and it is not part of my 8B and 8C, there can be multiple reasons for it. There cannot be only reason कि because 8A में नहीं आ रहा है इसलिए credit नहीं मिलेगा. There can be multiple reasons for it. My supplier might have shown supplies to me in B2C. हो सकता है उसने गलत GST नंबर डाल दिया, हो सकता है उसने टैक्स DRC 03 के थ्रू पे करा और उसको अपनी GSTR 1 में नहीं दिखाया. All these cases I am eligible to claim credit, and before 1st of January 2022 there was no provision in the law which told me that I was supposed to require the credit just because it is not coming in my GSTR 2A. Even after insertion of rule 36(4 जो October 2019 में आया, even in that case also reversal cannot be made on the basis of table 8. In fact, आप table 8 का structure देखिए. Table 8 में 8D के बाद में 8E और 8F है. 8E और 8F बोलता है कि अगर आपका 2A का क्रेडिट ज्यादा है और आपने नहीं लिया तो 2 रीजन हो सकते हैं, या तो वो एलिजिबल था या इनएलिजिबल था और हम उसको लैप्स करेंगे. This table 8 does not talk about that specific case where it says that I had an input tax credit which was not coming in my 2A और इस कारण से वो ITC reverse हो जाएगा. But having said that, probably tax officers have a different mindset. The point which I'm trying to bring here is there can be multiple reasons why there is a difference. For whatever reason it is there, it cannot be a sole basis for issuing a show cause notice to me कि मेरे को credit नहीं मिलेगा. 16 subsection 2 में जो 4 conditions हैं, उन चारों conditions में कहीं ऐसा नहीं लिखा कि table 8D के अंदर आपका figure negative में नहीं आना चाहिए. So clearly they cannot issue a show cause notice to me on that particular front. Now coming to a linked amendment which has come from January 2022 in this regard, जहां पर section 16 subsection 2 के अंदर एक amendment है which is prospective in nature, where clause AA has been added in 16(2). I'm sure all of us are aware about it. इसके ऊपर बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. I'm sure you must have discussed this, which clearly says कि 4 condition जो है credit लेने के लिए, उसके साथ अब एक नई condition और है January 2022 के बाद. वो ये है कि supplier ने वो outward supplies invoice के respect में जो invoice आपके पास में है, वो supplies को अपनी GSTR 1 में दिखाया हो, और ना सिर्फ अपनी GSTR 1 में दिखाया हो, वो सप्लाईज आपको कम्युनिकेट हो गई एक स्पेसिफिक तरीके से, एंड दैट तरीका इज मेंशन इन सेक्शन 37. सो मीनिंग देयर बाय 2 कंडीशंस एक्स्ट्रा है क्रेडिट लेने के लिए. सप्लायर ने उस सप्लाई को GSTR 1 में दिखाया हो और वो सप्लाई आपको कम्युनिकेट हुई एक स्पेसिफिक मैनर के अंदर. दैट मीन्स 2021 फाइनेंशियल ईयर तक आपके टेबल 8D में अगर कोई डिफरेंस आ भी रहा है, still it does not have a mother provision. कोई mother provision नहीं है जिस कारण से ITC रिवर्स हो सकता है. डिपार्टमेंट में से कि रूल 36 सब रूल 4 के कारण हम रिवर्सल कर रहे हैं, बट अगर आप रूल 36 सब रूल 4 पढ़ेंगे, वो सिर्फ इतना से कहता है कि वो सप्लाईज जिन पे आप क्रेडिट ले रहे हैं वो सप्लायर ने अपनी GSTR 1 में फाइल कर दी हो. इट डज नॉट सेज कि वो आपके 2A के अंदर दिखनी चाहिए. दोनों में फर्क है. सप्लायर अपनी GSTR 1 में सप्लाई कैसे भी फाइल कर सकता है, उसको B2C में दिखा के फाइल कर सकता है, गलत GST में फाइल कर सकता है, he may amend it for whatever reason, but that does not mean it will always appear in my GSTR 2A. However, coming from January 2022, we have a precondition that those supplies should have been filed in GSTR 1 and they should appear to me in GSTR 2B. और 2B का रेफरेंस हमको रूल 36 सब रूल 4 से मिलता है. तो इनफैक्ट 3 कंपार्टमेंट्स है क्रेडिट के, 3 टाइमलाइंस है. जुलाई 17 से 8 अक्टूबर 2019, जहां जब ना 16(2) AA था और ना रूल 36(4) था. All notices which only say credit not appearing in 2A, according to me, they are improper notices. They do not have any provision in the law which mandates us to match it. From October 2019 till 31st of December 2021, yes, there was a requirement of matching. But that matching could have been on yearly basis. It could have been on GSTN basis. It did not be on an invoice to invoice level basis. From January 2022, this matching has to be on invoice to invoice level basis. And I have to ensure that my supplier files GSTR 1 and it is told to me in GSTR 2B. इनफैक्ट जीएसटीआर 2B का जो अस्तित्व है, जो उसकी लीगल वैलिडिटी है, that comes from January 2022 only. So all the notices which we get today for mismatch of credit between 2B and 3B, 8A and 8D, annual return, all those notices have no validity at all, because Rule 36 sub Rule 4 के अंदर जो amendment है, that has been made effective from January 2022, which says supplier has to file GSTR 1 and it has to be communicated to me in GSTR 2B. So that's the amendment in Rule 36 sub Rule 4. And all of us know what is the problem in 2B. 2B is a static document. GSTR 2A था कि अगर मैं आज 3B भर रहा हूं तो मेरा GSTR 2A आज की डेट में जो अपडेटेड है मैं उसके हिसाब से मैचिंग कर सकता था. But GSTR 2B is not like this. It gets updated on the 14th day of the subsequent month. और अगर मैं उस टैक्स पीरियड का रिटर्न भर रहा हूं तो मुझे वो 2B के साथ में कंप्लाई करना है, जहां पे क्लियरली माय इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम इज गोइंग टू बी लेसर. But for 2021, I need not look at 2B. I can look at 2A and on a gross level basis. So at least table 8 के कारण जहां पे भी differences है, clearly that cannot be a basis for reversal of my input tax credit. Coming to credit notes and GSTR 2A, I think this is that one problem which majority of us daily face. जहां पे probably supplier और recipient के बीच में understanding का gap है या accounting treatment किस तरीके है, that creates a problem. And specifically जहां पे डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर मॉडल होता है, जहां पे there is a stockist, super stockist, manufacturer, सबसे नीचे retailer, there the problem is, let's say supplier ने receiver के ऊपर कोई एक GST का credit note दिया और वो credit note recipient के GSTR 2A में reflect कर दिया. But all those people who are not matching these credit notes or GSTR 2A regularly, they never care to reverse the input tax credit. उन्होंने कभी अपना ITC reverse नहीं करा उस credit note के basis पे. Rather, कोई इंसेंटिव या डिस्काउंट लेने के लिए what they have done is they raised the invoice on that same supplier. तो recipient ने supplier के ऊपर invoice raise कर दिया. मैथमेटिक्स सेम है. 100 रुपए का अगर क्रेडिट नोट मुझे मिला है, मुझे उसका ITC रिवर्स करना था, उसकी बजाय मैंने 100 रुपए का इनवॉइस बना दिया. Now that invoice when I am punching in my GSTR 1, वो सामने वाले के 2A में दिखता है, but that person is not claiming credit of that particular invoice क्योंकि वो ऑलरेडी मुझे क्रेडिट नोट दे चुका है. तो सप्लायर अपना आउटवर्ड कर चुका है, मुझे अपना ITC रिवर्स करना था, मैंने अपना ITC रिवर्स नहीं करा, मैंने एक इनवॉइस बनाया और इनवॉइस बना के मैंने रिसिपेंट को दिया और रिसिपेंट ने उसका क्रेडिट नहीं लिया. So kind of it has a dual impact on the taxability. It kind of creates two impacts on the taxability. And there it is important that we tell our clients when we are filing our annual returns that whatever credit notes we are showing in our GSTR 9 or we are showing in our GSTR 1 as the case may be, we ensure that recipient reverses the credit, because that's one of the conditions under sections 15 subsection 3 and section 34. 15 subsection 3 ये कहता है कि अगर पोस्ट सप्लाई कोई डिस्काउंट है तो मैं क्रेडिट नोट दे सकता हूं सब्जेक्ट टू रिसिपिएंट ITC रिवर्स करे. और सेक्शन 34 ये कहता है कि अगर मैं कोई क्रेडिट नोट दे रहा हूं फॉर एक्सेस पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्स और एक्सेस टैक्सेबल वैल्यू और गुड्स रिटर्न और डिफेक्टिव सर्विस, देन आई हैव टू इंश्योर दैट रिसिपिएंट के ऊपर मेरे टैक्स बर्डन को पास ऑन नहीं किया है. So when we are filing these returns, we have to ensure that we tell our clients कि सिर्फ credit note GSTR 9 में मत दिखाइए, but ensure you have proper documentation. Otherwise, tomorrow department will pick this figure, will ask for a verification that whether recipient has reversed the ITC. If recipient has not reversed the ITC, क्योंकि GSTR 2A में दिखने से सिर्फ ITC reverse नहीं होता, he has to actually reverse the ITC in GSTR 3B. Till the time he's not doing that, that is a little problematic for that particular person who is showing the credit note in that regard. We come to table 5 of GSTR 9C, and last 10 minutes basically for my monologue, and then we'll go to the question answer session. So what is this table 5 of GSTR 9C? Interestingly, this table is only matching of turnover which is there in my books of account with the value of outward supplies which I have punched in my annual return. Now, when you look at this table 5, you realize that from A to R, A is the turnover as per my books of account. R, not R, but A, 5Q is turnover declared in annual return. Uske beech mein there is 5B to 5P. Oh, sorry, 5B to 5, yes, 5B to 5P. Now, this 5B to 5P is on multiple reasons. It can be unbilled revenue, it can be non-GST credit notes, it can be unadjusted advances, deemed supplies, and all those things. Now, government is saying that what you can do is you can punch all the details in 5O. And according to me, one should not opt for it. Maybe you may opt for other options, other relaxations which are there. But once you punch the details in 5O, Clearly what you're telling the tax officer is कि मैंने outward का reconciliation जो मेरे books of account के साथ में होना चाहिए मेरी GST returns का, that I have not done properly and that is a little messy on my part. Because there cannot be a possibility that I have two GST numbers और दो GST number होने के बाद में I do not have figure in 5D. That can be rarest of the rarest possibility that I do not have any deemed supplies under Schedule 1 and I have two GST numbers. I am into the business of distribution model and there is no possibility that I cannot have a non-GST. I am not having any non-GST credit notes. I am a service supplier and I am not having advances. These are all those places where departmental officer would always be waiting. You write figures in 5.0 and I will ask you what is the reason for writing the figures in 5.0. So if somebody is writing figures in 5.0, again the advice will be 5.0 में figure लिखिए, but उस figure का explanation table 6 में जरूर दीजिए कि आपने 5.0 में जो figure लिखा है उसके reasons क्या क्या है. That in itself, according to me, is going to be a very important task from your side, so that tomorrow departmental officer would not ask you unnecessary questions because you would have already explained to him. Now, one question which comes is 5A may from where should I start? Should I start from revenue from operations? Should I start from total of my credit side? Should I take credit side of my expenses also? What should I start with in my 5A? I understand because this table will be read by an officer who will try to understand the mathematics of this. It is always better to start with the simplest of the things. And revenue from operations is that figure which is clearly available on the face of your audited books of accounts or audited financial statement. So I will always suggest to start from 5A, revenue from operations, which is coming in your audited profit and loss account. Your turnover as per annual return, whatever it may have, uska total yahan par aayega. If there is any difference which is coming, that difference you can always explain in table 6 that something which is part of my annual return but not forming part of my revenue from operations, but it has been reported in other section, maybe in other income or at the credit side of the profit and loss account. That would probably give confidence to the tax officer when he will look at the reconciliation. Because अगर आप 5A के figure के लिए अपने आप में reconciliation बना रहे हैं कि 5A का figure कहाँ से आया, according to me, that is going to be a little challenging for the tax officers to understand. Then we have this table of rate-wise tax liability. This table, after this amendment in 9C, is a very crucial table because up till now, we always said that whatever is there in books of account, I am only matching it with my GSTR 9. Now, the taxpayer cannot say that whatever is there in a books of account, I am only matching it. He's also taking responsibilities. Whatever is there in his books of account, uski rate-wise tax liability kya hai. So what are those typical things which come forward जब हम GSTR 9 में reconciliation करते हैं? GSTR 9C के अंदर table 9 का. Table 9 is a rate-wise tax liability which is there in my books of account. Vis-a-vis the tax liability which is coming from GSTR 9 table 9. 2-3 things. मैंने IGST मेरे invoice पे tax charge कर लिया, but I have wrongly paid CGST, SGST. Second, मैंने CGST, SGST invoice के ऊपर charge कर लिया instead of IGST. और मैंने IGST पे कर दिया गवर्नमेंट को. Third, I have charged CGST, SGST and I have paid IG and CGST, SGST instead of IGST. These are all reconciling differences जो table 9 के face पे दिखते हैं. All these three have three different answers. For first case, हमारे पास circular number 26 है जहाँ पे I paid excess tax in of मैंने document सही बनाया पर tax गलत पे करा है. I have to resort to circular number 26, make an adjustment, otherwise claim a refund. Second, जहां पे मैंने डॉक्यूमेंट गलत बनाया है वहां पे I have to prepare the correct document. The problem in that case will be debit note तो मैं आज बना पाऊंगा but I may not be able to prepare a credit note, so that may lead to dual implication of tax liability. Third, जहां पे place of supply के कारण document गलत और tax गलत था, in that case I always have time. I did not pay any interest. I have to only pay the correct tax and claim a refund of the wrong tax paid. So all these three have different answers. There cannot be standard answer to all these things. Coming to table number 12 and table number 14 of ITC, I think the most important thing to understand in table number 12 and table number 14 is table number 12 of GSTR 9C. ये कभी भी eligible ITC का reconciliation नहीं करवा रहा है. It is only asking for a reconciliation of the input tax credit which is there in my books of account. Vis-a-vis the ITC which I have claimed in my GSTR 3B or annual return which is forming part of, just to ensure कि जितनी ITC मेरी annual return के अंदर है वो मेरी books of account में कहीं ना कहीं तो है. The problematic part is table number 14, where it's saying is it is doing a reconciliation of amount of total ITC and amount of eligible ITC availed. And if somebody is opting to file table number 14 or table number 14 की column 4 में somebody is writing figure, that means he is self-declaring to the government that according to him that is the eligible ITC. So for eligible ITC, he is saying I have ensured all the compliances: document, payment of tax, receipt of goods and services, invoice by the supplier, payment to the supplier in 180 days. I have made all these compliances. And tomorrow, if anything of this sort is challenged by the tax officer, he will always be tempted to say that according to him, the ITC eligibility was not proper and you have not claimed the ITC in a proper or a specific manner. But one question which comes is, like, let's say मेरी ITC मेरी GSTR 3B में ज्यादा है और मेरी बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट में कम है, और लेट्स से मुझे रिवर्सल करने की जरूरत है. Am I required to pay interest? The answer is absolutely clear no. From my side, I'm not required to pay the interest until unless I have utilized that ITC. If I've always maintained balance in my input tax credit ledger or electronic credit ledger, I need not pay any interest to the government. Specifically, after the 44th, or somewhere, I think the second last GST Council meeting, there was a proposal to retrospectively amend section 50 subsection 3. Now 50 subsection 3 will now have rate of interest at 18% and the condition that input tax credit has been claimed and utilized. So just on the basis of claiming, there cannot be any interest liability. Today that provision is not there, but it is going to come hopefully when this new budget 2022 proposals will be there. It is definitely going to be part of that CGST amendment bill which is going to be there, because GST Council has given a principal approval to it. So I understand just because I have claimed input tax credit, I am not supposed to basically reverse that particular part. Part 5 of my GSTR 9C. And now this is something which is very interesting. Why I am saying interesting? Because up till now, part 5 was additional liability and it was an auditor's recommendation. Now the name has been changed and it is additional liability due to non-reconciliation. So pehle, if auditor was mentioning anything here, it was something which is given by the auditor. Now this is not something which is given by the auditor, it is given by the taxpayer himself. When taxpayer is giving this detail, he can't shy away from saying, I am writing figures here, but I will not pay that tax. It kind of, in my understanding, becomes a tax which he wants to basically declare and pay. And it also has a lot of other things. It says erroneous refund to be paid back. So that means when somebody is filing annual return for 2021, he has to also check कि उसने कोई refund लिया है which is not proper as per the provisions of Act. And all those who have claimed refund under inverted duty structure, after the judgment by Honorable Supreme Court in case of VKC footsteps, if somebody has claimed refund of capital goods or input services under inverted duty, I think this GSTR 9C is the correct form where he should sue or to reverse it, pay that amount of refund to the government along with interest, so that tomorrow he is not slapped with any penalty by the department. Because whatever he is going to pay here, he may claim a recredit of it from the government in his electronic credit ledger. Last thing in respect of GSTR 9 and 9C, one question which comes up, and I think department has a different view on this, but I think we can stick to what basically we understand. Let's say annual return, yeah, 9C compliance karne ke baad, I realize that I have to pay some additional tax and I have balance in my electronic credit ledger. The question which comes is, can I pay the tax through my electronic credit ledger or I have to pay that through cash only? When you read the instructions along with GSTR 9, instructions are quite clear and they say that tax needs to be paid through electronic cash ledger. And why do they say so? In my understanding, they only refer to section 41. So section 41 पढ़ के they basically come out with an understanding कि आप जितना भी credit अपनी GSTR 3B में लेते हैं, वो credit आप अपना सिर्फ self assess output tax pay करने के लिए इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. And उसके beyond you cannot use it. And that is why one understanding which comes is कि आप जो भी GSTR 3B के through credit ले रहे हैं, उससे आप अपना self assess output tax pay कर सकते हैं. However, there is section 49 to which my understanding probably all those who have drafted this form, they have missed it. What this section 49 says? 49 says electronic credit ledger में जो भी balance available है, it can be used for payment of output tax. It does not use the word self-assessed output tax. Meaning thereby, in case in my GSTR 9, I am declaring some outward tax liability, which I forgot to declare in my GSTR 9. Or there is a liability coming due to reconciliation difference. In all those cases, as per section 49, I can utilize my electronic credit ledger and there is no harm in it. And if I've always maintained balance in my electronic credit ledger, I need not pay any interest also. However, at the same time, all of you should remember that there is a judgment from Odisha High Court, which is in context of payment of pre-deposit. Slightly unrelated topic, but on the same issue. Can I use balance of my electronic credit ledger to pay pre-deposit when I'm filing an appeal before any appellate authority? And answer to that is no. That cannot be done. I can use the balance of my electronic credit ledger to only pay output tax. However, whenever I'm paying a pre-deposit before an appellate authority, that is not an output tax, and that tax I have to pay through my cash ledger. Meaning thereby, annual return ki time pe, if there is an additional tax liability, I can always pay that through my electronic credit ledger. But if I'm filing an appeal or agar mere paas credit ledger mein balance pada hai, that does not matter, and I have to ensure that I pay the tax through my electronic cash ledger only. Documentation at the end of it, when you're telling your client, see, I am doing your annual return compliances along with GSTR 9C. What you see in green is on the right hand side are all those things which ideally the taxpayer should maintain, with the things which you see on the white, jo uske paas any which will law ke hisab se honi hai. So if somebody, a client is a proper compliant client and he wants to say that my GST compliance should be proper, his outward register should match with e-way bill details. But if it does not match with e-way bill details, at least he should have an outward register. Otherwise, he is a non-compliant client. Inward register reconciled with 2A, RCM registered, bifurcated and registered and unregistered supplier liability, and stock register with details of wastage and e-way bill details. Now, I am saying that's the ideal compliance which somebody would do. But let's say somebody does not have an ideal compliance. Then in that case, what is the option available? Last option available basically is with GSTR 9C. The GSTR 9C is the last opportunity available with the taxpayer. He can go forward, tell the government that there are certain things which you have not complied with, and he can always give that as a disclosure and a caveat. Disclosure और caveat का कितना weight होगा? I think उसका answer जो available है, वो आंसर है सेक्शन 126 सबसेक्शन 5 में. 126 सबसेक्शन 5 क्या कहता है? That there is something which I have not complied as per the provisions of law, but I come forward and declare voluntarily to the government. Then in that case, if there is any penalty which will be levied on me, the tax officer has to consider that I have already given that information to him before asking. Meaning thereby in GSTR 9C, whatever disclosure taxpayer wants to give, उसने कोई tax under protest pay करा है, some ITC reversal he does not want to do, some tax position he has already taken. Let's say he does not agree with the Supreme Court decision for whatever reason, and he is not giving back the refund to the government. Let's say some supplies or some inward supply जिसका income tax में उसने खर्चा section 37 में disallow किया है, but he does not want to reverse the ITC. I think all those disclosures should form part of reconciliation GSTR 9C as an additional document. Upload with GSTR 9C. 90% cases, departmental officer will not read it. But that is not our problem. Because once you have explained from your side in a statutory form, then tomorrow departmental officer is basically duty bound to explain why he did not consider it at that point of time. I think with this, I'll put my end to the monologue, which basically I've been given since last 90 minutes. Thank you for your patient hearing. Whatever questions are there, we'll try to cover all those questions. I would again like to thank the association for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I hope I was able to add some value to all the participants who are here. Thank you so much.
Great session, Yash Bhai. Bharat Bhai, I'll just request if there is any time, can he just cover recent amendments for say 5 and 10 minutes quickly, if we can have some time, and yeah, if Yash Bhai is comfortable, and then maybe we'll take just question answers for 5 minutes or so, if
sure,
it's okay, Yash.
No problem. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I'll just share my screen. So 2 amendments I've already covered. One is 16(2)AA. Second amendment basically which I covered was that self-assessed tax, whatever difference is there in your GSTR 1 and 3B with effect from January 2021, that January 2022, department can come forward and say we can directly recover it without giving a show cause notice to you. However, there is a SOP which was issued by government on 7th of January 2022. And that SOP said that even when somebody, let's say departmental officer finds that there is a difference in your GSTR 1 and 3B, he will directly not go to the bank and attach your bank account. He will first give a notice to you, tell you that this is the difference, and he has a power to attach the bank account, whether you want to give any explanation. And he'll give you a reasonable time. During that reasonable time, if you give your proper explanation, then if he is satisfied with the explanation, he will not attach the bank account, else he'll go forward and attach the bank account. Now, in this whole process, one thing which has not been answered is, let's say he is not satisfied with my answer and I am not satisfied with his approach. What is going to be the next step? In all probability, unfortunately, the only step which I see is going to the High Court and filing a writ petition that this attachment which has happened or which officer is proposing to happen is illegal and not proper. Otherwise, I don't see any order coming from the departmental officer which becomes an appealable order. So these two amendments are there. Third is the power of provisional attachment. Now, this power of provisional attachment is given under section 83. This again is kind of a very dangerous thing to basically understand, in a sense, to say that up till now, therefore, in respect of certain chapters of the law only, there was this power which was available with the tax officer, where he would go to his commissioner, seek a permission in writing, and in the interest of the revenue, he will tell the commissioner, see, I want to basically, for the purpose of ensuring that taxpayer complies, and he has a doubt that taxpayer may not comply, that's why he would like to provisionally attach the property. And there were certain sections in that regard which were given. Now that power has been extended, and that power has been extended in respect of this assessment provisions also, and access to the business premises also, and for section 76 also. What does that mean? That means, let's say tomorrow your client gets an ASMT 10 notice for scrutiny of a return. Okay. Your client says, I do not wish to reply to it because I get these kind of routine notices on regular basis. And now I'm fed up with this. I don't want to reply. He gets one ASMT 10, second ASMT 10, third ASMT 10. Client says, I don't care. Probably in that case, it becomes a valid ground for the proper officer to seek permission from the commissioner that before issuing, once he issues the fourth ASMT 10, he will first of all provisionally attach your bank account so that he will force you to reply to the particular replies. Meaning thereby, now a taxpayer cannot say that I don't want to be compliant in terms of these notices which are improper. Notices may be on improper figures, but notices which are coming under specific sections, be it those sections under under assessment, let's say 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, or 73, 74, or under 76. In all these cases, he cannot afford to say, I will not reply. Second, let's say tax officer is coming to your premise and he realizes that on visit of the premises, either the assessee is not available, or the books of accounts are not proper, or the basic minimum requirement which should be there when he visits the premises, basic bookkeeping, that has not been maintained. In those cases also, he can go ahead and basically request for the attachment of the property. So that means whenever, in fact, how would an assessee know that the officer is coming? The correct way of looking at this is that client should be enlightened and encouraged to understand that if tomorrow tax officer is visiting the premises, maybe on a surprise visit, and is unable to find proper records, then in that case also it becomes a plea for him to basically go to the commissioner and say that he would like to attach the bank or other properties, because he finds that probably assessee may be a fly-by-night operator, or he may abscond, or he may not be available at a subsequent point of time. So these are three cases basically I could think of where a taxpayer, where generally he takes these notices very lightly, he cannot afford to do so. Next is in respect of e-way bill. We know that wherever there is e-way, the documents which are required to be carried along with the vehicle when goods are moving from one place to another, having a consignment value of more than 50,000 rupees, they are compulsorily required to have e-way bill, invoice, and other documents. Earlier, when those documents were not proper and inception was done, then there was a liability to pay tax along with penalty under section 129. Now, there was always the issue where all of us argued that what gives power to the department to recover tax under section 129, because 129 is not a charging section. If department has to recover tax, they may recover under section 7 or section 9, read with section 7. They can't do that under 129. In all probability, they have understood this. They have amended section 129. So the quantum has remained same. Earlier, we were paying tax and penalty. Now we have to pay penalty, which is 200% of the amount of tax. So that needs to be paid. That's point number one. Point number two, which is another important change, is earlier the time limits for issuing the notice and orders were not part of the law, but they were coming through a circular. Now they are made in part of the law. So within the detention, within 7 days, show cause needs to be given, and within 7 days of show cause, order needs to be given. Third and the most important thing, if let's say order was passed in MOV 09 against me, and I was not making payment of that tax to the government, then in that case, the point was there was possibility of a confiscation under section 130, and department had power to basically go into confiscation proceedings. So they were all together separate proceedings. They will give you a show cause for confiscation, pass an order, property will vest with them, and they will go and auction it. Now, under section 129, they have kind of fast tracked it, where they're saying once an order has been given to you under section 129, that is within the 15 days of detention, you don't make payment within next 15 days, then in that case, we need not go to confiscation. We can immediately sell off those goods and conveyance, and we can to recover that particular tax amount. Meaning thereby, if somebody basically wants to challenge it, it is very important from him that within 15 days, he makes the payment of that 200% of penalty or 50% of the value of goods, as the case may be, and then go into appeal. He can't afford to say that I will go into appeal, pay 25% of the penalty amount, which is another provision, and then I will ensure that that appeal is first decided. In that case, the problem would be that goods will still lie with the department. Assessee would not be able to get the goods released provisionally. His appeal, till the time it is not decided, those goods will still lie with the department in that particular case. And I think one more important amendment, which I would like to bring to the notice of all the members, I'm sure you are aware, but I think it has a far-reaching implication again. That is provision which has been brought in to basically kind of nullify the impact of the judgment given by the Honorable Supreme Court larger bench in case of Calcutta Club Limited. The issue was in case of Calcutta Club Limited was whether any service tax or sales tax can be charged when any goods or services are supplied by the clubs or association to its members. The Honorable Supreme Court said no, it cannot be done for a very simple reason that club and its members are not separate person, they're only one person, and there is a concept of mutuality applicable in that case. Now what has happened is under section 7(1)AA, the scope of supply has been enlarged. And there is a deeming fiction which has been brought in 7(1)AA, where it has been said that all these clubs, association and its members, they are treated to be two separate persons. And once they are treated to be two separate persons, any transaction which is happening between these clubs, members and association, clubs and their members, then that is a transaction between two separate persons where there is a valuable consideration and suddenly it becomes taxable. The negative part of this is that it is a retrospective amendment coming from 1st of July 2017, meaning thereby all cooperative societies, associations, clubs who have not paid GST, considering them as to be one person for transaction with their members, suddenly now it becomes taxable from the previous date, that is inception date. Not only it becomes taxable, tomorrow department will come forward and ask for interest also, maybe in some cases penalty also. Though we have judgment from the previous regimes which says whenever there is a retrospective levy, interest and penalty is not payable. We have a Supreme Court judgment of Star India, which is almost on the similar lines, which is no interest and penalty is payable. However, tax in this case now I understand is going to be payable. Now there is an ancillary question which I generally put to all the participants. That is, though this amendment is only for clubs and its members or association and its members, there is one more challenge to it. Challenge is when you read 7(1)AA, it appears that transactions which are taking place between a partner and a partnership firm, they are also kind of getting covered in this particular language. It says the activities or transactions by a person other than an individual to its members or constituents or vice versa for cash, deferred payment or other valuable consideration. Now the word constituents according to me is a little complicated here. What is the meaning of the word constituent? Whether a partnership firm which is defined as a person under CGST Act, that partnership firm and its partners which are constituents of that partnership firm, they are also covered. If they are also covered, can department tomorrow say whatever salary or remuneration which is being paid to a partner of a partnership firm, that is also covered here? So technically it is only a transaction in money. That is a transaction taking place between a partnership firm and its partners. And we have a lot of Supreme Court judgments in this regard, which says that partnership firm is only formed basically for the purpose of distribution of profits. It is nothing else but share in the profits which takes place. So in that case, I understand even if they're treated as two separate persons, it is going to be a transaction money. But then it is for that in the time for future to see how department looks at these particular type of transactions. I think these are some 4 or 5 amendments which I thought are important. All of us should consider that. If anything else which I have left out and anybody wants me to basically deliberate on that, I'll be very happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashji. Thank you very much.
Thank
Kunal,
you.
we can take some questions. There are a lot of questions, but let us stick to 9 and 9C questions if possible.
Yes, sure. So a couple of questions, Yash. One being turnover in financial year 2021 has exceeded 5 crores, but tax audit or statutory audit is not required, as you had mentioned. Can self-certified financials now be uploaded instead of audited financials to comply with the GST portal while filing GST 99?
Yeah, so the only problem is when you read section 44, it says you have to reconcile with audited financial statement. So there clearly there is a difference in the language of what it is written, but clearly because there is no provision in the law available, I will always say self-certified would be the proper way of complying with it.
Perfect. The second one being if a tax-free sale or purchase is not declared in 3B and now declared in 99C, whether it will have any impact.
Only impact, then you have to look at ITC reversal as per rule 42 read with section 17.2 that you have done properly or not.
Yes. March 2021 ITC is not claimed in GSTR 3B. Now, how can I claim? Already, I think you have answered in your
presentation. Yeah. You can't claim it separately.
Okay. Department has sent notices for mismatch in ITC as per 3B and ITC as per 2A for financial year 18-19. I think this also you have taken.
Yeah, so those notices, I don't see any validity of them. Though department will go ahead and educate it. Only one thing to add, if that notice, show cause notice tomorrow comes under section 74, there is a Jharkhand High Court judgment of NKAS Consulting which says that for 2A, 3B mismatches, show cause cannot be under at least under section 74. So that relief is already there from one of the high courts.
Okay. Next one being in financial 2021 IGST is claimed as 50,000 wrongly instead of CGST and SGST. How do I show in GSTR 9 and 9?
GSTR 9 and 9C, it will remain the way it is. You can't basically change it. If you're
as per 3B.
Yeah, as per 3B, that's what I understand. In your GSTR 9C, again, there is no column where you can show C and SI separately. What best you can do is you can rectify it today. Tomorrow, department will say that credit which you're claiming today is barred by 16.4. I will say that my input tax credit, the manner definition is written. It talks about CGST, SGST, IGST proper. So I've claimed the credit maybe under wrong hat. It's only a procedural lapse. 16.4 is not applicable.
Okay. Then the last one, maybe or a couple rate-wise tax liability, how to declare in the case of builders, means 7.5 or 1.5% cases.
It has to be under others. Yeah.
And, RCM liability if is paid in DRC in 03 while filing GSTR 999C, whether ITC can be availed for the same.
A tricky question. Answer, I will bifurcate in 2 parts. If the supplier was unregistered and you were supposed to prepare a self-invoice under section 31(3)(f), prepare it today, claim credit, litigative, but I understand we have a strong case to argue. If supplier was registered and you're paying RCM today, unfortunately, the document on which you have to claim credit was his invoice. And because his invoice is dated for the previous year, you can't claim the credit today.
Okay, I believe that's all that was there in the queries. If anybody has any else new queries, maybe you can take up, or we'll just wind up the session, I believe. Okay, great. Thank you, Yash, for such an insightful session and also clarifying all the queries of the participants. I hope this has definitely added value to all the participants present today. I would now request CA Arvind Ramani to kindly give a formal vote of thanks to our today's speaker.
Thank you, Krunal. Good evening to one and all. I'm very thankful to all the consortium of the association for giving me the opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to today's speaker, Sri Yash Dhhada from Jaipur. Friends, you all agree that Sir had taken us through all the nitty-gritties and issues in the GSTR 9 and 9C in a very simple language. He had also taken us through the recent amendments in GST. After hearing Sir, now we will be more confident while filing GST return forms. On behalf of the consortium of the association, of organizing association and all the participants from all over India. I thank Yash Dhhada sir for accepting our invitation and enlightening all of us on very important and burning topic of the time, GSTR 9 and 9C and recent amendments, and also taking all the queries and sharing his views on the same. Thank you, sir. I also thank each and every participant from all over India for taking time and be a part of this webinar. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Before depart, we should acknowledge the presence of our past national president, G.D. Nankani ji is there. And then Nikita Badeka is also there. So we are very much grateful to you, Nankani ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mitesh ji. Thank you, Mitesh ji. And thank you, Yash, for a wonderful session. We will hoping to hear from you again very soon. So we'll be
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.
catching hold of you
Yes,
again very
yes,
soon.
yes, definitely. Very nice presentation.